Chapter 261. Chapter 261. Overbearing and Overbearing. 549690339. Lu Ming's figure fell rapidly. Just as he was about to hit the ground, the essential qi in his body burst out. He stomped on the ground heavily and his body continued to drift backward. You want to leave? Can you leave today? In the sky, the yellow-robed young man shouted coldly. He was shocked and furious. With his cultivation at the peak of the second level of the martial arts Grandmaster realm and his surprise attack, he had not managed to kill Lu Ming with 2 consecutive slashes. This made him feel extremely humiliated. Die! The yellow-robed young man held the sword with both hands and slashed out. A terrifying sword light, hundreds of meters long, cut through the void and approached Lu Ming in an instant. Senior Brother Huang, I'll join you. Next to the yellow-robed young man was a white-robed young man. He unsheathed his combat sword and thrust it forward. An extremely sharp sword qi pierced toward Lu Ming. At this moment, Lu Ming's eyelids twitched as if he was facing the god of death. Block it! Block it! Lu Ming's eyes were bloodshot. He circulated his essential qi to the maximum and 4 ancient shields formed in front of him. Human Dao Palm. Lu Ming waved his palm and cast the human path palm. A huge palm print appeared in front of him, carrying the power of wind and fire, and blasted forward. Boom! An earth-shattering roar shook the entire dormitory area of the Star Hall. One after another, figures rushed out of the dormitories and fled in all directions. Lu Ming's human path palm print, the ancient shield, was shattered. The terrifying force landed on Lu Ming's body. Bang! Lu Ming was like a cannonball flying backward. He crashed through 2 dormitory buildings and flew hundreds of meters away. Lu Ming used his long spear to support himself on the ground. He drew a deep line on the ground before he stopped. His body trembled and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Still not dead. In the sky, the 2 young men were shocked. With their cultivation and combat strength, they could kill a first-tier martial arts grandmaster with a single strike. However, Lu Ming had blocked it head-on. He was only injured but not dead. This was too shocking. Kill! The 2 young men's killing intent burst forth. Their eyes were cold as they charged toward Lu Ming. Stop! With a few loud roars, a few streams of light broke through the air at an extremely fast speed and arrived above the dormitory building in an instant. They were the elders of the General Stars Hall. Get lost! The yellow-robed young man and the white-robed young man were extremely domineering. They slashed out with their combat swords, and their sword qi soared into the sky. Bang! Bang! The 3 elders of the General Star Hall were no match for him, and were sent flying hundreds of meters away. Stop! The 10 Direction Sword Sect is too much. You killed my General Stars Hall students in public. I'd like to see how the 10 Direction Sword Sect is going to explain this to the royal family. One of the patriarchs shouted as he looked at Lu Ming anxiously. Lu Ming was the unparalleled genius of the General Stars Hall now. He was the hope of the future. Nothing must happen to him. However, the 2 young men from the 10 Direction Sword School were gold-ranked disciples of the 10 Direction Sword School. Their cultivation had reached the peak of the second level of the martial arts Grandmaster realm. In addition, they were top geniuses, so their combat strength could even compete with those in the 3rd level of the martial arts Grandmaster realm. Among the 3 of them, the strongest was only at the 2nd stage of the martial ancestor realm. The other 2 were only at the 1st stage of the martial ancestor realm and were not his match at all. Explanation? Why should we, the 10 Direction Sword Sect, have to deal with the royal family? What a joke! Tungru has opposed the 10 Direction Sword School and killed many of their geniuses. He deserves to die. Get out of my way now, or you'll all die. The yellow-robed young man shouted in an overbearing manner. The 3 elders of the General Stars Hall had ugly expressions on their faces, but they stood firmly in front of Lu Ming. Lu Ming spat out another mouthful of blood. He leaned on the ground with his long spear and stood up straight, looking at the sky. It was indeed the disciples of the 10 Directions Sword School. It seemed that the 10 Directions Sword School had been forced into a corner. They had actually sent a gold disciple to directly attack the General Star Hall. Then, His gaze fell in the direction of the dormitory. It was already in ruins, and there were constant wails. Lu Ming had managed to dodge the first attack, but the others did not have the ability to do so. At least 10 people had died under that sword and many more were injured. Fortunately, Ming Feng had been living in Ming City during this period of time. Otherwise, it would have been dangerous. Damn it! Lu Ming held the spear shaft tightly, his eyes filled with killing intent. Senior Brother Huang, there's no need for so much nonsense. Just kill him directly. The white-robed young man was even colder, his gaze as sharp as a sword. He took a step forward and charged forward. Hold on, there will be experts soon. An NBSP die. An elder shouted in rage and charged forward with all his strength. The other 2 elders were the same, but they were not his match at all. After a dozen moves, they were injured and forced to retreat. One of the elders in the first realm of the martial ancestor realm even lost an arm. You're overestimating yourself. The yellow-robed young man sneered with disdain. Impudent. Suddenly, there was a loud roar and a snow-white blade light slashed from the distance. It cut through the void and arrived in an instant. Not good, martial ancestor 4 stage. The 2 young men's expressions changed, and they each slashed out with their swords. However, they were swept away by the saber radiance and were sent flying thousands of meters. Whoosh! In the sky, several streams of light arrived in an instant. There were 3 people in total, 2 old men and 1 young man. Hua Qi. This young man was Hua Qi. He was enveloped by an elder's true qi, which was why he could walk in the air. I'm here. Let's see who can kill Tianyun. Hua Qi's eyes were like lightning as he stared at the 2 youths from the 10-direction sword sect. 8th Prince, Tianyun is going against the 10-direction sword school. He's trying to destroy the relationship between the 10-direction sword school and the royal family. He has ulterior motives. Be careful, or the royal family might be harmed by him. The yellow-robed young man said coldly. You don't have to worry about this. I will find out. Now get out of the General Star Hall. Hua Qi coldly shouted in an extremely domineering manner. You bastard Hua, I'm giving face to the royal family by calling you the 8th prince. Don't be ungrateful. The yellow-robed young man said angrily. This ant Hua Qi actually dared to tell him to get lost. He was a golden disciple of the 10-direction sword school, a high and mighty figure. In the 5 great sects, gold disciples were extremely rare. Every single one of them was a figure whose name shook the Blazing Sun Empire, and their status was not much lower than the gold-robed elders. This was because they had unlimited potential. They would have no problem becoming gold-robed elders in the future. And now Hua Qi, this ant, was berating them. So what if he was the 8th prince? Their gazes were extremely cold. If you don't want to get lost, then I'll make you get lost. Let me tell you, the imperial capital is, after all, the imperial capital of the imperial family. Hua Qi coldly shouted. Beside him, 2 old men exploded with powerful auras. One was in the 3rd level of the martial ancestor realm, while the other was in the 4th level. The yellow-robed young man and the white-robed young man showed a look of fear. If he was at the 3rd level of the martial ancestor realm, they could still fight him. But at the 4th level, even if they joined forces, they would not be a match for him. The difference was too great. Good, 8th prince, let's wait and see. The yellow-robed young man said good 3 times in a row, but his voice was extremely gloomy. Then he looked at Lu Ming and said, Tianyun, if you're so capable, then don't leave the General Star Hall for the rest of your life. We'll wait for you outside the General Star Hall, and see how long the imperial family can protect you. After saying that, the yellow-robed young man and the white-robed young man stepped on the air and disappeared. Oh. Chapter 262. Chapter 262, Father's Whereabouts. 549690339. Looking at the sky, Lu Ming appeared calm on the surface, but his heart was in turmoil. Martial Arts Grandmaster, Martial Arts Grandmaster. I have to break through to the Martial Arts Grandmaster realm as soon as possible. Right now, I seem to be invincible among the great martial masters, but it's still not enough when I encounter a strong martial arts grandmaster. The day I break through to Wuzong will be the day you die. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with killing intent. Hurry up and rescue the injured and clean up the dormitory, the elder of the General Star Hall instructed his men. On the side, Hua Qi's eyes were filled with intense killing intent and unwillingness. He had been attacked in public, destroyed a few buildings, killed more than a dozen students and injured many more. As for the people he had brought, they clearly had the ability to make the other party stay, but they could only watch helplessly as the murderer left. This humiliation made Hua Qi's entire body tremble. After a long while, Hua Qi took a deep breath and walked to Lu Ming's side. "Tianyun, are your injuries all right?" "I'm fine." Lu Ming smiled. Although his injuries were not light, they did not hurt his core. It would not take long for him to recover. "I really didn't expect that the 10-Direction Sword School would dare to kill people in the General Star's Hall so openly. They're getting more and more lawless. In the past, they would have some scruples." Hua Qi said. "This time I have to thank you," Lu Ming said. "Why are you thanking me?" "Lu Ming, I have something to discuss with you today. I didn't expect to encounter what happened just now." "Oh, what's the matter?" Lu Ming asked. "It's about your father," Hua Qi said softly. "My father?" Lu Ming's heart trembled. His eyes shone with hope and he said in a trembling voice, "Don't tell me you're afraid." Hua Qi nodded and said, "Let's talk on the side." And NBSP. The two of them walked to a place where no one was. "Lu Ming, I found out about your father," Hua Qi said. "Where is my father? Is he in the imperial capital?" Lu Ming asked in a trembling voice. Hua Qi shook his head. He was originally in the imperial capital. He was imprisoned by the people of the 10-Direction Sword sect in an extremely secretive place in the northern part of the imperial capital. However, 7 days ago, a group of unknown people suddenly attacked that secret place. Your father has already been kidnapped by that group of people. What? They were taken away by a group of unknown people? Do you know why that group of people kidnapped my father? Lu Ming was shocked. Hua Qiyaolu shook her head. "I don't know about this. However, we've already found out that those people are rushing to the Forsaken Desolation, and the people from the Omnipresent Sword sect are pursuing them with all their might. Lonely Wasteland, I'm going to save my father immediately." Lu Ming revealed an anxious look. "Wait a minute, Lu Ming. Don't be anxious. Don't forget that the disciples of the Omnipresent Sword School are still waiting for you outside," Hua Qi called out. Lu Ming took a deep breath to calm himself down. Yes, he had to deal with the 2 disciples of the Omnipresent Sword School first before he could go to the Forsaken Land. "Lu Ming, I'll find a way to lure the 2 disciples of the Omnipresent Sword School away. Also, my father has already sent 4 experts to the Forsaken Land in secret." At this point, a sword-shaped jade tablet appeared in Hua Qi's hand. He handed it to Lu Ming and said, "This is a 10,000-mile sound-transmitting talisman. The 4 experts sent by my father also have one. You can use it to send a message to them when you reach the desolate wilderness. You will be able to receive the other party's information within 10,000 miles. Hua Qi, many thanks. Lu Ming took it and thanked him sincerely. Hua Qi had really helped him a lot. I've already said that you don't need to thank me. Be careful on your way, Hua Qi said. Lu Ming nodded and smiled. Let's have a drink and chat when I'm back. All right. I'll go and draw away the 2 from the 10-Direction Sword School. Hua Qi nodded and left the General Star Hall with the 2 elders. About half an hour later, Hua Qi's figure appeared. He said, Lu Ming, you can leave now. Lu Ming nodded. He took out a black robe and put on a bamboo hat. He moved and disappeared without a trace. Lu Ming left the General Star Hall and headed north along some side streets. After passing through 7 or 8 streets, he did not find any disciples from the 10-Direction Sword sect. Stop! Just as Lu Ming let his guard down, a delicate voice was heard. Buzz! The sound of something breaking through the air was heard. A beautiful figure appeared in front of Lu Ming. Thank you. Xian Yanqing. Lu Ming's heart trembled. He looked at the person in front of him dumbfounded. The young girl in front of him was extremely pretty. She was wearing a short skirt, revealing a pair of slender, fair and tender legs. She was staring at Lu Ming with her big eyes. Who else could it be but Xian Yanqing? He had never expected to meet Xian Yanqing here. Why did Xian Yanqing stop him? He had changed his appearance and was wearing a black robe and a bamboo hat, so Xian Yanqing would not be able to recognize him. Cough, cough. Young lady, may I know why you are blocking my way? Lu Ming coughed a few times and lowered his voice. He sounded like a burly man in his 30s. Lu Ming, why are you pretending? I finally found you. Come, let's have a big fight. The corners of Xian Yanqing's mouth lifted slightly as he said in disdain. Ah! Lu Ming was stunned. Xian Yanqing really recognized him. How was that possible? Could he have revealed something? But he looked around and didn't reveal anything. However, why did Xian Yanqing insist that he was Lu Ming? Lu Ming took off his bamboo hat and revealed his disguised face. Young lady, look, you've really got the wrong person. Humph. Xian Yanqing's lips curled up slightly, and his disdain grew. Lu Ming, stop pretending. No matter how you disguise yourself, I can still recognize you. No matter how you disguise yourself, your smell will never change. Just so happens that my nose is special. As long as I've smelled someone's smell, I can recognize them even if they turn into ashes. This works too. Lu Ming was speechless. He had never thought of this. Ha ha ha, Miss Ye, what a coincidence. I haven't seen you for a long time and I miss you. Unfortunately, I have something urgent to attend to now. Please make way for me and we can talk another day. Lu Ming laughed and revealed his original voice. Humph, Lu Ming, it's not easy to meet you. Don't even think about leaving. I've said it the last time that I'll trample you ruthlessly under my feet the next time I see you. Come on, fight me. Xian Yanqing looked at Lu Ming unkindly. I said I'm not free right now. If I want to play, I'll play with you in the future. Lu Ming's voice sank. He was in a hurry to go to the Forsaken Land and had no time to fight with Xian Yanqing. I don't care. Don't even think about leaving today. Xian Yanqing blocked Lu Ming's path arrogantly. Move! He shouted. Lu Ming shouted coldly and pushed his palm forward. A powerful true qi gushed out, trying to push Xian Yanqing away. However, Xian Yanqing's body moved slightly and a powerful true qi surged out, canceling out Lu Ming's true qi. What powerful strength! Lu Ming's eyes flickered. He was a little surprised. After not seeing him for a while, Xian Yanqing's cultivation had also reached an astonishing level. Oh! Chapter 263. Chapter 263. The Great Battle in the Desolate Wasteland. 549690339. Xian Yanqing was also a little surprised. Clearly, Lu Ming's ability was beyond her expectations. Good, you're quite strong. You'll be able to fight me. Xian Yanqing's eyes lit up. You're crazy, I don't have time to accompany you. Lu Ming snorted coldly. He then soared into the sky and dashed into the distance at top speed. Don't even think about leaving. Xian Yanqing shouted and kicked off with his legs. His body seemed to be weightless as he chased after Lu Ming at an incredible speed. He was not slower than Lu Ming at all. Lu Ming was shocked. He activated his midair steps to the maximum and walked in the air. In an instant, he was hundreds of meters away. Not long after, he left the imperial capital and headed northwest. Behind him, Xian Yanqing followed closely. He could also walk in the air for a short time. This bitch is really sick. Forget it, if you want to follow then follow. Lu Ming was speechless. He let her follow him while he used his body movement technique and moved forward at top speed. The lonely wasteland was located at the northwest border of the Burning Sun Empire. It was a vast dead wasteland that spanned 3 empires. It was the border of 3 empires. To the north was the Dark Moon Empire. To the northwest was the Bloodjiao Empire, a mid-tier empire. Empires were divided into low-tier empires, middle-tier empires, high-tier empires, and supreme-tier empires according to their strength. The Blazing Sun Empire and the Dark Moon Empire were both low-tier empires. Emperor Yun's 36 empires included 8 middle-tier empires, while the rest were all low-tier empires. A middle-tier empire was at least 10 times stronger than a low-tier empire. Given Lu Ming's current cultivation, it would take him 4 to 5 days to reach the Forsaken Desolation Land. After a day and a night, Lu Ming's essential qi was insufficient. He stopped to meditate to recover. Not far behind them, Xian Yanqing was also panting heavily. He stopped and sat cross-legged on the ground. He's really persistent. Lu Ming was rather speechless. 3 hours later, Lu Ming's essential qi had fully recovered. He saw Xian Yanqing standing up. How about this? I really have something urgent to attend to. After I'm done with this, I'll have a fight with you. Lu Ming said. Who knows where you'll run off to when the time comes? You treated me like that in the past, and I said that I'll definitely trample you under my feet. I said that and I'll definitely do it. Don't even think about running away, I'll follow you. When you're done with your business, I'll teach you a good lesson. Xian Yanqing said through gritted teeth. Lu Ming was speechless. This lady's temper was too strange, right? Forget it, forget it. If you want to follow, then follow. Lu Ming was speechless. Following that, Lu Ming continued on his way. Xian Yanqing followed him from the side. In the blink of an eye, 4 days had passed, and the desolate wilderness was already in sight. He stood on the peak of a mountain and looked into the distance. The desolate wasteland was extremely vast, like a giant beast lying in front. The two of them took a step forward and headed towards the desolate wilderness. Only after entering the forsaken land did he realize that it wasn't completely dead. He could see patches of trees and weeds. However, these trees and weeds didn't have leaves and looked lifeless. The surroundings were completely silent. Not even the chirping of insects or the chirping of birds could be heard. However, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing did not dare to be careless. This was because the Forsaken Desolation was a well-known danger zone that contained great danger. Roar! At this moment, the two of them saw a huge black tiger running through the wild forest. The tiger's aura was powerful. It was a Class 2 Level 3 demonic beast, and NBSP, hoo-hoo. At this moment, a black mist suddenly flew down from a leafless tree in front of the tiger. The black mist rolled towards the tiger and then flew away, disappearing into the tree. A tiger-shaped skeleton was left behind. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's scalps turned numb. They had seen clearly that the black mist that had flown out of the tree was a kind of tiny ants. However, there were too many of them and they were terrifyingly powerful. The giant tiger, a Class 2 Level 3 demonic beast, had turned into a skeleton before it could even scream. The desolate wilderness was indeed strange, so he had to be extra careful. The two of them continued to move forward, and there were no mishaps along the way. Soon they were more than 300 miles deep. Buzz! An NBSP whoosh! Oh! All of a sudden, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. In a flash, 8 figures appeared in front of Lu Ming and the other man. The two of them froze and stopped. The 10 Direction Sword Sect is here on business. We're temporarily commandeering this area. Please go back. The leader of the group, a middle-aged man, said. His tone was overbearing. Since when did the Forsaken Desolation land belong to the 10 Direction Sword School? This is the first time I've heard of it. Lu Ming sneered. If I say it's ours, then it's ours. Kid, don't be unreasonable. Otherwise, this place will be your burial ground. The middle-aged man's eyes turned cold, and his body emitted a faint killing intent. Lu Ming was not wearing his bamboo hat at the moment. It was obvious that the people from the Omnipresent Sword Sect had not seen Lu Ming before, and did not recognize him. Lu Ming swept his gaze across the people from the Omnipresent Sword Sect. The burly man in the lead had an extremely thick aura, and was at the 1 Dan Martial Arts Grandmaster realm. The other 7 were all 9th grade Great Martial Masters. It was obvious that the 10 Direction Sword Sect had mobilized a large force to capture Lu Yuntian. Alright, let's go. Suddenly, Lu Ming said and turned to leave. Xian Yanqing's eyes flickered. Without saying anything, he turned and left with Lu Ming. Behind him, the middle-aged man from the 10 Direction Sword Sect had a strong killing intent in his eyes. These two people are suspicious. I'd rather kill them wrongly than let them go. Kill them. The middle-aged man waved his hand. Kill. Immediately, the 2 9th grade Grandmaster Realm experts unsheathed their swords and charged at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. He was extremely fast and instantly appeared behind the two of them. The broad combat sword slashed down at their heads. However, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing suddenly turned around. Lu Ming waved his hand and a long spear appeared. It pierced through the 9th grade grandmaster who was charging at him. With a snap of Xian Yanqing's fingers, the man's head flew high into the air and blood splattered everywhere. Lu Ming was slightly surprised. He could tell that Xian Yanqing's cultivation had already reached 9th grade grandmaster realm. It seemed that Xian Yanqing had some kind of fortuitous encounter during this period of time. Otherwise, his cultivation would not have improved so quickly. It was because of his spirit-devouring bloodline that his cultivation base had skyrocketed. However, Xian Yanqing didn't have the spirit-devouring bloodline, yet his cultivation breakthrough was no slower than his. It was truly shocking. I knew you would do this. Lu Ming looked coldly at the remaining people from the omnipresent sword sect. In an instant, the 2 experts were killed, causing the middle-aged man and the others to be stunned. Then they roared in anger. You dare to kill the disciples of my 10-direction sword school? You're looking for death. Kill them. The middle-aged man exuded a terrifying aura as he pounced toward Lu Ming. The remaining 5 9th grade grandmaster realm martial artists charged at Xian Yanqing. First level of the martial ancestor realm. It's a good time to test my strength. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. He shook his long spear and charged at his opponent. During this period of closed-door cultivation, he had gained a lot. His combat strength had increased rapidly, and he did not know what level he had reached. He had fought 2 times previously. The first time was against a peak 9th grade great martial master, and the second time was against 2 geniuses at the peak 2nd grade martial grandmaster. The first time was too weak and the second time was too strong. It was not a good test of Lu Ming's combat strength. This one-stage martial ancestor realm was just right. Oh. Chapter 264. Chapter 264. Killing a first-level martial ancestor realm. 549690339. A mere great martial master dares to fight me? Die. The middle-aged martial arts grandmaster sneered. In his opinion, Lu Ming was overestimating himself and was courting death. Buzz. The middle-aged martial arts grandmaster's combat sword was aimed at Lu Ming's head. He wanted to cut off Lu Ming's head with one strike. Buzz. Whoosh. Lu Ming's long spear trembled and stabbed again. A bright spear gleam pierced forward. The spear radiance and the middle-aged martial arts grandmaster's sword clashed. The middle-aged martial arts grandmaster's expression changed drastically in an instant. Boom! A wave of extremely sharp and powerful force blasted towards the middle-aged martial arts grandmaster. The middle-aged martial arts grandmaster's body trembled, and he retreated rapidly. He slid back for dozens of meters in the forest, leaving a deep gully on the ground. How can a great martial master have such powerful strength? The middle-aged martial arts grandmaster roared in his heart. So this is your strength, it's not that great. Kill. Lu Ming lifted his gun and charged at the other party. The long spear thrust out and beams of dazzling spear radiance burst out. The middle-aged martial arts grandmaster tried his best, but he was still no match. After 6 moves, he was hit by Lu Ming's spear and flew out with a scream. Buzz! Lu Ming chased after him and smashed his long spear down from above. Bang! The middle-aged martial arts grandmaster screamed again. His body was smashed into the ground, creating a huge pit. He lay in the pit and kept spitting out blood. He could not move. In a flash, Xian Yanqing appeared beside him. It was clear that she had already taken care of the 5 9th grade great martial master realm warriors. The middle-aged martial arts grandmaster lay in the crater and looked at the 2 young people with shock in his eyes. Where did this young man pop out from? He was too terrifying and his combat strength was simply shocking. Could he be a genius from the Blood Zhao Empire? The middle-aged Wu Zong thought. He had never heard of such a powerful great martial master in the Blazing Sun Empire. Unless it was a mid-tier empire like the Blood Zhao Empire, it would be normal to have such a genius. Tell me, what's the current situation of the person you're chasing? Where are they? Lu Ming stared at the middle-aged martial arts grandmaster coldly and asked. Could it be that you are also after the secret key to the martial emperor's treasure? I'm telling you, Cho Changkong of the 10 Direction Sword Sect is right in front of us. You're just a mere great martial master, and you want to interfere? You're really looking for death. The middle-aged Wu Zong shouted angrily. The secret key to the martial emperor's treasure? Cho Changkong is also in front? Lu Ming's expression changed. He looked a little solemn and doubtful. The leader of the 6 heroes, Cho Changkong, was actually hunting down his father. And the secret key to the martial emperor's treasure? Is it related to a martial emperor? At the thought of this, Lu Ming was shocked. Above the martial ancestor realm was the martial king realm. They were known as kings and were extremely powerful. It was still a question whether or not there was a martial king in the vast blazing sun empire. Even the overlords like Lin Shui had not reached the martial king realm. However, there was a huge difference between a martial king and a martial emperor. No, there was an even greater difference. There was no way to compare. After the martial king realm, there were still 3 major realms of the spiritual god realm. Above the 3 spiritual god realms was the martial emperor realm. A martial emperor could shatter the heavens and earth with a snap of their fingers, causing the sun and moon to lose their light. They were the strongest experts in the divine wilderness continent, unrivaled at the peak. As for whether there was a higher realm after the martial emperor realm, there were legends, but they were just legends. Could the secret key to the martial emperor's treasure be related to the martial emperor? Lu Ming could not help but be shocked. Lu Ming did not notice that Xian Yanqing's eyes glowed with surprise when he heard the key to the martial emperor's treasure. So I advise you to let me go quickly. I can hide what happened today. Otherwise, you will all end up in a miserable state. The middle-aged Wu Zong threatened. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he let out a shrill scream because Lu Ming had pierced his thigh with a spear. You talk too much nonsense. Tell me, where did you chase them to? Did you find the person you're chasing? Lu Ming asked coldly. The middle-aged Wu Zong broke out in cold sweat and screamed, I'll tell you, please don't kill me. He knew that he had met a ruthless person today, so he could only admit defeat and beg for mercy. Speak, Lu Ming shouted coldly. If we keep going forward from here, it's the experts of the Dark Moon Empire who have kidnapped the people we're pursuing. Our people are about to catch up with them. The middle-aged Wu Zong shouted. The Dark Moon Empire. Lu Ming frowned, feeling that the situation was getting more and more complicated. He continued to ask, how many experts did you bring this time? Other than Cho Changkong, there are a total of 7 people in the martial ancestor realm. Now, other than me, there are 6 more people and more than 100 martial artists in the martial grandmaster realm. The middle-aged martial arts grandmaster answered honestly. I've said everything I need to say. I beg you to let me go. I won't tell anyone about what happened today. The middle-aged Wu Zong begged. However, there was a flash of ferocity in the depths of his eyes. He secretly planned that as long as Lu Ming let him go, he would inform Cho Changkong and let them die without a burial. Let you go. Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. With a flash of killing intent, he thrust his spear forward. Don't be scared. The middle-aged martial arts grandmaster screamed. However, the next moment, his scream came to an abrupt end because his heart had been pierced and crushed by Lu Ming. I won't leave behind any hidden dangers. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Lu Ming, your combat strength is not bad. I'm looking forward to stepping on you even more. Xian Yanqing sized Lu Ming up carefully, his eyes glowing with passion. Lu Ming shivered and quickly changed the topic. You don't want the spoils of war, but I want them. With that, Lu Ming fumbled around the bodies of the people from the omnidirectional sword sect. At the same time, he controlled his spirit-devouring bloodline and secretly devoured their blood essence. There was the blood essence of a first-level martial arts grandmaster here. Lu Ming did not want to miss it. After the battle just now, Lu Ming had a better understanding of his combat strength. It was equivalent to the peak of the first level of the martial ancestor realm. The middle-aged man was only in the early stage of the first level. Therefore, he was defeated by Lu Ming in a few moves due to his carelessness. However, such combat power was far from enough. Cho Chongkong was the leader of the 6 heroes. His combat strength was definitely terrifying, not to mention that there were other martial grandmasters present. It would be very difficult to save his father. He had to constantly improve his strength. Very quickly, Lu Ming had devoured all the blood essences of the 8 disciples of the omnidirectional sword school. 8 more storage rings appeared in his hands. Hey, you can't keep the storage ring for yourself. I want the storage ring of that martial arts grandmaster. Xian Yanqing shouted. On what basis? Lu Ming did not give it to her. No, I'm definitely taking it. Xian Yanqing gritted his teeth. Alright, but I'm going to cultivate for a while. Help me guard. Lu Ming said. You can fuck me. Xian Yanqing gritted his teeth and finally agreed. The two of them left the place and stopped in a valley more than 50 miles away. Lu Ming wanted to refine his blood essence and break through to the 9th grade Grandmaster realm. Xian Yanqing snorted coldly and stood guard at the entrance of the valley unwillingly. Lu Ming sat cross-legged and circulated the true war dragon technique. Boom! 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 The blood essence of a first-level martial arts grandmaster was too rich. It was constantly being converted into thick energy. Lu Ming refined it and converted it into essential qi. Lu Ming began to break through to the next realm. Chapter 265. Chapter 265. Chapter 265. Two sides fighting. 549690339. About 2 hours later, a loud boom was heard from Lu Ming's body. A powerful aura burst out but was quickly retracted. 9th grade Great Master Realm breakthrough. Not far away, Xian Yanqing's eyes widened in shock. He actually broke through just like that. To be honest, when she first saw Lu Ming, she was extremely shocked because Lu Ming's cultivation speed was too fast. Back in the Dongyi tribe's ancestral secret land, Lu Ming's cultivation was 1 grade lower than hers. He was only a 2nd grade grandmaster. It had only been half a year or so and Lu Ming's cultivation had increased to a terrifying level. If not for her fortuitous encounter, she would have been overtaken by Lu Ming. Just now Lu Ming had a breakthrough again. She did not know how amazing Lu Ming's spirit-devouring bloodline was, and was naturally shocked. Alright, let's go. Lu Ming smiled, got up and walked forward. Xian Yanqing's beautiful eyes were fixed on Lu Ming, as if he wanted to see through him. The two of them headed towards the depths of the desolate wilderness. During this period, Lu Ming used the 1,000-mile sound transmission talisman to send a voice transmission to the experts of the royal family. He received a response very quickly. However, Lu Ming did not meet up with the imperial family's experts. Instead, they split up. They were too big of a target when they gathered together. At this moment, in the depths of the desolate wilderness, in a certain wild forest, the light moved and a dozen figures in black robes appeared. There were a few old men and a few middle-aged men. Among them, there was only a young man in his 20s. However, the young man seemed to be the leader of the group. Damn it, the people from the 10 Direction Sword sect are really persistent. They're like a dog that won't let go. A middle-aged man said unhappily. If we didn't have this cripple with us, how could the 10 Direction Sword School catch up to us? The other man with a scar on his face said coldly as he looked at the other man. This person had a head of messy hair that reached his waist. His face was covered with a beard that drooped to his chest. His hair and beard were like a bird's nest, and he had not washed them for a long time. He was casually wearing a worn-out shirt that was covered in blood. His eyes were empty, staring at the sky in a daze, and he didn't pay any attention to the man with the knife scar. Seeing this, the knife-scarred man's eyes flashed with killing intent and he shouted in a low voice, Lu Yuntun, don't play the fool in front of us. Hand over the Martial Emperor's secret key, and tell us the whereabouts of the Martial Emperor's treasure. Otherwise, I'll kill you with a single slash. This dirty and messy man was actually Lu Yuntian, Lu Ming's father who had disappeared for more than 8 years. At this moment, Lu Yuntian's eyes flickered as if he had come back to his senses. He looked at the knife-scarred man with a disdainful expression and said, All right, then quickly kill me. You think I don't dare to? Damn it, when we return to the Inu Empire, I'll make you suffer. Let's see if you'll say it or not. The knife-scarred man roared. I've been in the 10-direction sword school for more than 8 years. What kind of tricks have I not experienced? I didn't even say anything. Do you think you can do it? Lu Yuntian's disdain grew. Damn you, referee. The scar-faced man was so angry that his facial muscles trembled, causing the scar on his face to tremble. He wanted nothing more than to kill Lu Yuntian. However, Lu Yuntian had too many secrets in his heart that they had to know. They had taken the risk to kidnap Lu Yuntian for those secrets. Alright, we'll investigate it when we get back. The most important thing now is how to get rid of the 10-direction sword sect in Cho Changkong's pursuit. A white-haired old man waved his hand and said. The scar-faced man smiled at Lu Yuntian sinisterly and did not say anything else. So what if we catch up? I'd like to have a battle with Cho Changkong. I'd like to see how Cho Changkong is qualified to be on the Cloud Emperor board. The only young man sneered. Third Prince, don't be careless. The Yun Emperor list is the list of the strongest among the younger generation in the 36 countries of Emperor Yun. There are only 36 people on it. Cho Changkong is ranked 36th, which means his strength is absolutely terrifying. We can't underestimate him. The white-haired old man warned. However, the young man just smiled, apparently not too concerned. Let's hurry and leave this place. The white-haired old man said. Leave? Can you get a divorce now? Suddenly, a cold shout came from the sky. A beam of rainbow light took the lead and rushed over, followed by 6 other beams of rainbow light. The white-haired old man's expression changed and he shouted in horror, Cho Changkong, this is bad. Let's go. No one can leave. A cold voice came from the rainbow light in front of him. Whoosh! An incomparably bright sword light flew out, slashing towards the people of the Dark Moon Empire. Cho Changkong, I'll fight you. The third prince of the Dark Moon Empire let out a long roar. With a wave of his hand, a round-shaped weapon, which looked like a bright moon, appeared. The wheel turned and slashed out a terrifying sharp light toward the sword chi. Boom! With a deafening boom, a 100-meter-long ditch appeared on the ground as the two men's attacks swept across. Buzz! The space moved, and a tall and slender figure appeared in the air. He was about 25 or 26 years old, with a cold and handsome face like a sharp sword. His long swordsman robe fluttered in the wind. This was Cho Changkong, the leader of the Scorching Sun's 6 heroes. He was a famous genius in the entire Cloud King mountain range and was ranked on the Cloud King list. Injuyo, so it's you guys. Cho Changkong said as he swept his gaze across the crowd. Haha. Cho Changkong, you're trying to take all the good fortune for yourself? Injuyo will not allow that. The third prince of the Inu Empire, Injuyo, laughed. Anyone who dares to touch my things can only die. As soon as the word die was uttered, Cho Changkong made his move. A beam of crystal-clear sword chi soared into the sky. His entire body merged with the sword chi as he charged toward Injuyo. Cho Changkong, I'd like to see how you managed to get into the Cloud Emperor board today. Injuyo let out a long howl as he engaged Cho Changkong in battle. The two of them were much stronger than Feng Wuji and the others, and their battle shook the heavens and earth. Boom! Boom! The two of them fought in the sky, like two streams of light constantly exchanging blows. In the blink of an eye, their battle had reached the depths of the desolate wilderness and they disappeared. Kill! At this moment, the martial grandmasters of the 10-direction sword school had also arrived and were charging towards the people of the Dark Moon Empire. The scene was in a chaotic battle. Soon, the great martial master of the 10-direction sword sect arrived, making the scene even more chaotic. Be careful, don't kill Lu Yuntian. An elder of the 10-direction sword sect shouted. The purpose of the great battle between the two parties was to fight for Lu Yuntian. Therefore, they avoided Lu Yuntian during the battle, afraid that they would kill him by mistake and all their efforts would be in vain. The battle between the two parties was extremely intense, but Lu Yuntian was left to the side. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were traveling at full speed. Suddenly, the two of them heard a violent explosion in front of them. There's a huge battle. Could it be that the people from the 10-direction sword school have already caught up to my father? Let's go. Lu Ming's expression changed slightly and he ran towards the battlefield at top speed. Oh! Chapter 266. Chapter 266. Father and son finally meet again. 549690339. Xian Yanqing followed closely behind. For the two of them, a few miles of distance was covered in the blink of an eye. 1,000 meters away from the battlefield, the two of them hid in a pile of rocks and watched from afar. Lu Ming saw the figure with messy hair at one glance. Father! Lu Ming's heart trembled. Although they had not seen each other for more than 8 years, although Lu Yuntian's hair and beard were in a mess and he was dressed in rags, Lu Ming could still recognize him with a single glance. This person was his father, Lu Yuntian. Damn the 10 Direction Sword School. They actually tortured my father like this. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with murderous intent. How can I save my father? After that, Lu Ming started to think. The omnidirectional sword sect and the Dark Moon Empire had more than 10 martial ancestor realm experts in total. There were even 2 4th-level martial ancestor realm experts who were engaged in an intense battle. It was simply impossible to save Lu Yuntian from so many powerhouses. It was impossible to get close. Once he got close, he would be discovered. Moreover, even if they could get close, so what? There was no way they could take Lu Yuntian away without making a sound. Once they were discovered, they would have to face the pursuit of 2 parties. In the face of such a powerful force, only death would be the only outcome. What do we do? Lu Ming was thinking anxiously. After more than 8 years, he had finally found his father. He was not far away now, but he could not save him. At this moment, Lu Ming hated himself very much. He hated himself for being too weak. I can save your father. Suddenly, Xian Yanqing whispered. What? You can save my father? Really? Lu Ming was shocked and asked. Of course it's true. It's up to you to believe it or not. Xian Yanqing rolled his eyes at him. No, I believe you. I believe you. If you can really save my father, I'll do anything you want. Lu Ming said sincerely. Don't think too much. I saved your father to prevent you from being impulsive and rushing out. If you die here, how can I fulfill my promise and step on you? Xian Yanqing snorted. Lu Ming smiled bitterly and touched his nose. How do you want to save my father? As you can see, once they find out that my father has been rescued, they will definitely stop fighting and go all out to hunt us down. I know a secret technique called the Heavenly Demonic Phantom Technique. It can create an illusion that is exactly the same as your father's. If you leave it there, I can steal Yang Huanju and save your father. Xian Yanqing explained. There's such a profound secret technique. Lu Ming was shocked. It's just a small trick. You're the one who's ignorant. Xian Yanqing looked at Lu Ming with disdain. The corners of his lips curled up slightly, revealing a smug look. Wait for me here. Before Lu Ming could react, Xian Yanqing's figure was like a ghost, floating forward. A layer of black mist emanated from her body, and it was impossible to tell in the night. Very quickly, Xian Yanqing was approaching Lu Yuntian. At that moment, Lu Ming's heart was beating so fast that it was almost in his throat. In the end, Xian Yanqing silently appeared behind Lu Yuntian. A layer of black mist began to spread towards Lu Yuntian. The black mist moved, and Lu Yuntian's figure disappeared without a trace. However, in the next moment, Lu Yuntian reappeared at the same spot. However, no one noticed that Lu Yuntian, who had appeared later, had a dazed look in his eyes. Shrouded in black mist, Xian Yanqing floated toward Lu Ming at top speed. In 7 to 8 breaths, he was beside Lu Ming. Let's go. My demonic apparition can only last for a moment. After that, it will disappear and the enemy will notice. Xian Yanqing's voice sounded. The black mist dissipated, revealing Xian Yanqing's figure. There was another figure. Who else could it be but Lu Yuntian? Let's go. Suppressing the excitement in his heart, Lu Ming pulled Lu Yuntian and used the soaring steps to rush out of the wild forest with Xian Yanqing. Now was not the time to reminisce. They had to leave this place first. At the same time, Lu Ming sent a message to the experts of the royal family through the 1,000-mile sound transmission talisman. The two of them were extremely fast. In the dark night, it was almost impossible to see their figures with the naked eye. Half an hour later, the two of them were already 200 miles away and stopped in a hidden mountain stream. Lu Ming had discovered this mountain stream by accident when he came. It was extremely well hidden. The message he had sent to the imperial family's experts was to meet here. After all, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were not martial arts grandmasters and could not fly. If they continued to travel with Lu Yuntian, it would not take long for the martial arts grandmasters from the omnidirectional sword sect to catch up. Only by borrowing the power of the imperial family could he save Lu Yuntian. The two of you are so young. Are you also here for the martial emperor key? I advise the two of you to give up on this idea. Qiu Chongkong has used all sorts of methods, but he still didn't succeed. It's the same for the two of you. At this moment, Lu Yuntian glanced at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing and said indifferently. However, neither Xian Yanqing nor Lu Ming said anything. They just stared at Lu Yuntian blankly. Slowly tears welled up in the corners of Lu Ming's eyes. He said softly, "Father." Lu Yuntian's body suddenly trembled. His originally listless eyes instantly lit up as he glared at Lu Ming. What did you just call me?" "Father, I'm Ming-er, father." Lu Ming reached out and wiped his face, revealing his delicate and pretty face. He had returned to his original appearance. Looking at Lu Ming's face, Lu Yuntian's body started to tremble violently. More than 8 years ago, Lu Ming was less than 10 years old. In addition to his weak and sickly body, his appearance and mannerism were very different from now. However, the outline of his face would not change. Also, the feeling between father and son would not disappear. Lu Yuntian immediately recognized Lu Ming. Minger, it's really you. It's really you. I'm not dreaming, am I?" Lu Yuntian's voice trembled as he stared at Lu Ming. He kept muttering under his breath, his eyes filled with surprise and disbelief. He had never dreamed that he would meet Lu Ming here. "Father, it's me. Ming-er has come to save you." Lu Ming's nose felt sour and his eyes were filled with tears. "Haha, Ming-er, the heavens have eyes. I can't believe I'll meet Ming-er again in my lifetime. I can die without regrets." Lu Yuntian let out a long sigh as tears continued to flow down his face. A man does not shed tears easily, but it was not the time to be sad. "Ming-er, you've grown so much in the blink of an eye. Let me take a good look at you." Lu Yuntian placed his hands on Lu Ming's shoulders and sized him up carefully. "Ming-er, you're finally able to cultivate. And you've even become an incredible expert." Lu Yuntian's face was filled with smiles. "Father, your cultivation level?" It was only then that Lu Ming realized that there was not a single fluctuation of true qi on Lu Yuntian's body. His body was weak and his blood qi was lacking. He was even weaker than an ordinary person. "My cultivation has long been crippled." Lu Yuntian chuckled. "Crippled? Who?" "Father, did the people from the 10-Direction Sword School do this? Damn it. Lu Ming's eyes were bloodshot, and his body exuded a sharp murderous intent. "Ming-er, don't be rash. It's already a blessing for us to meet. The 10-Direction Sword School is too powerful. Let's just forget about this," Lu Yuntian said. However, Lu Ming's heart was twitching. He knew that Lu Yuntian was worried about his safety. He was afraid that he would act rashly and go against the 10-Direction Sword sect. "Oh, father, who is it? Is it the entire 10-Direction Sword sect or someone else? Who is the mastermind?" Lu Ming asked. "Oh." Chapter 267. Chapter 267. Chapter 267. The Golden Cicada Leaves Its Shell. 549690339. Lu Yuntian wanted to just let it go, but he could not. No matter who it was, he would take revenge 10 times, no 100 times more. Would he still be considered a man if he didn't take revenge? The people he wanted to harm would end up 10 times, no 100 times more miserable than Lu Yuntian. Lu Yuntian muttered to himself for a moment before saying, "Ming-er, I can tell you, but you must not be rash. This person is not someone you can defeat. Promise me and I'll tell you." "Father, I promise you that I won't die before I'm strong enough," Lu Ming said. "All right, then I'll tell you. This person is At this moment, buzz, buzz, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. 4 figures rushed in from the mountain stream. These 4 were all white-haired old men, and the aura on their bodies was extremely strong. They were all experts above the martial ancestor realm. Lu Ming's eyes flickered and a 10,000-mile sound transmission talisman appeared in his hand. A short, chubby old man in gray linen clothes smiled as a voice transmission talisman appeared in his hand. Young Master Tianyun, I've heard so much about you. I didn't think that you would be able to save your father from Cho Changkong's eyes. You're truly admirable. The short and fat old man cupped his fists. Senior is too polite. I was just lucky. This time, I'll have to trouble Senior to send us back to the imperial capital. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said, You're welcome. It's just a small matter. Let's not waste any time. Let's move as soon as possible. If the people from the 10 Direction Sword School find us here, we'll be in trouble. The short stubby elder said. Lu Ming nodded. At this moment, whoosh, whoosh. The sound of something flying through the air could be heard in the distant sky. A few figures streaked across the sky and instantly disappeared into the distance. Lu Ming could clearly see that those figures were the martial grandmasters from the omnidirectional sword sect. The 10 Direction sword sect is so fast. The stumpy old man's expression changed greatly. Lu Ming's face darkened. This mountain stream was very well hidden, and it was surrounded by bushes and weeds, so the people from the 10 Direction sword sect did not notice it just now. However, as time passed, they would definitely notice it. What do? If we go out like this, we'll definitely be discovered. If Cho Changkong arrives, we won't be his match even if we join forces. The other old man said with a serious expression. Seniors, I'll have to trouble you to take Ming-er and the others away. I'm the one Cho Changkong and the others want. I'll go and draw them away. Lu Yuntian said. No, father. It wasn't easy to save you. How can I let you fall into the hands of Cho Changkong and the others? Lu Ming said firmly. Even if he had to die, he would not let Lu Yuntian fall into the hands of the 10 Direction sword sect and suffer. With a wave of his hand, essential chi surged, and Lu Yuntian's tattered clothes landed in Lu Ming's hands. Ming-er, you can't. Lu Yuntian's expression changed. The other people's expressions also changed. Seniors, I'll go out and draw them away. You guys take my father back to the imperial capital and hand him over to His Highness, the 8th Prince. Lu Ming said to the few elders. Ming-er, you can't do this. I don't agree. Lu Yuntian let out a deep roar. Lu Ming smiled. Father, don't worry. Ming-er will be fine. We'll meet again in the imperial capital. Wait. I'll go with you. Xian Yanqing suddenly said. You're coming. Lu Ming looked at Xian Yanqing. Don't think too much. I'm just afraid that if you die, I won't be able to keep my promise. Also, how are you going to lure the people from the 10 Direction Sword School away by yourself? Don't forget that your father's cultivation has been crippled. If you run too fast, you won't be exposed immediately. I'll take you away. Xian Yanqing pouted. All right, let's do that. I owe you a favor. Lu Ming said. TSK, who wants your favor? Xian Yanqing pouted in disdain. Father, take care. Having said that, Lu Ming was about to rush out. Ming-er, you can't. Come back. Lu Yuntian growled. Oh. However, he had lost his cultivation and could not catch up with Lu Ming. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were out of the mountain stream. After leaving the mountain stream, Lu Ming put on Lu Yuntian's clothes. I'll take you away. Xian Yanqing pulled Lu Ming and ran towards the depths of the desolate wilderness. If he wanted to lure the people from the 10 Direction Sword School away, he would naturally have to do so in the depths of the desolate wilderness, so that Lu Yuntian and the others could escape successfully. After a few miles, over here I see them. A loud roar rang out in the desolate wilderness. Buzz, buzz. A few figures were chasing after Lu Ming and the rest at high speed. They were a few 9th grade great martial masters. Let's run together. Lu Ming pretended to be pulled by Xian Yanqing. In fact, he had used his movement technique. The two of them were like a gust of wind, heading towards the depths of the forsaken desolation. The ninth-grade Great Martial Master Realm martial artists behind him couldn't catch up at all. The difference was too great. In the blink of an eye, dozens of miles had passed. Who dares to rob the people of my 10-direction sword school? You're courting death. At this moment, the sky exploded and the sound of the air being torn could be heard. A martial arts grandmaster was flying in the air and chasing after them. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing ignored him and ran away with gritted teeth. Just like that, he ran for a few hundred miles. Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment there were 6 figures in the sky. They were the 6 martial arts grandmasters of the 10-direction sword school. At that moment they were getting closer and closer to Lu Ming and the rest. No matter how fast they were still slower than flying in the air. They were slowly being caught up. Whoosh! Xiao! Xiao! Beams of sword chi slashed at Lu Ming and his partner. The two of them flashed and dodged them. A moment later, another 100 miles had passed in a flash. Die! At this moment, an elder was already approaching Lu Ming and Su Lingyue. This elder's aura was extremely thick. He was the 4th-level martial ancestor realm expert from the 10-direction sword school. With a cold expression, he waved his sword, and dozens of bright sword chi shot out. It completely enveloped the two of them. Not good, block it. Lu Ming growled and 4 ancient shields appeared behind him. Xian Yanqing also shouted and waved his palm. Black lotus flowers appeared behind him. Bang! Bang! The ancient shield and the black lotus exploded one after another, and a strong force shot out in all directions. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing made use of this force to charge forward for thousands of meters. You're not Lu Yuntian. We've been tricked. The old man let out an earth-shaking roar. Haha, it's too late to realize it now. My men have already brought Lu Yuntian out of the forsaken desolation land. You bunch of idiots. Lu Ming laughed heartily. Damn it, damn it. Lu Yuntian ran away, so I'll kill you all. The old man roared angrily and continued to chase after Lu Ming and the rest. After chasing for a while, he slashed again. However, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing used the same trick again. They blocked with their shields and black lotus flowers and used the momentum to charge forward. The old man in the sky was so angry that he almost vomited blood. At the same time, he was shocked. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were only 9th-grade grandmaster cultivators. Not only were they unbelievably fast, but their defensive abilities were also frighteningly high. Although there was a distance between them, it was already terrifying enough to block his sword chi. The 4th level of Wu Zong is indeed powerful. Lu Ming's gaze was solemn. Oh. Chapter 268. Chapter 268. Blood Realm and Devils Denver 549690339. In fact, both he and Xian Yanqing were not feeling well. They were both injured and blood flowed from the corners of their mouths. The two of them gritted their teeth and ran forward. Not long after, they ran another few hundred miles. Not good. It's the Blood Realm and the Devil's Den ahead. The elder from the 10-direction sword sect shouted. Stop. You'll all die if you enter the Blood Realm and Devil's Den. Quickly stop them and ask for Lu Yuntian's whereabouts. The other members of the 10-direction sword sect shouted. Not far ahead, a thick fog covered the area, and the blood mist rose. It was boundless. One look and one could tell that it was a place of great danger. Blood territory and Devil's Den. Lu Ming frowned. He had not heard of it. Looking at Xian Yanqing, she was also confused. I don't care anymore. It looks like the people from the 10-direction sword school are very afraid. The more dangerous a place is, the easier it is to escape. Lu Ming decided to rush in. It didn't stop at all and rushed towards the Blood Realm and Devil's Cave. Damn it, damn it. Stop them. The elder from the omnipresent sword sect bellowed repeatedly and slashed out sword chi with all his might. However, it accelerated the speed of Lu Ming and his companion. Stay! Suddenly, an angry shout came from the sky, and a glass-like sword light slashed from the distance. It was extremely terrifying. Young Master Chong Kong! The people from the 10-direction sword school shouted excitedly. Not good. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's expressions changed drastically. Although the sword chi was still very far away, its power surpassed that of the fourth martial ancestor realm elder. Without hesitation, Lu Ming activated his blood meridian and condensed 4 ancient shields at the same time. Then he struck out with his palm. Human Dao Palm. And NBSP. A massive palm print fused with wind and fire energy shot forward. Xian Yanqing, on the other hand, was covered in black lotus flowers in front of him. At the same time he sent out 3 black palm prints. Demonic Palm. Whoosh! The sword radiance arrived in an instant and was the first to collide with the human path palm print and the heavenly demonic palm print. Instant sword. Qiu Changkong's sword chi glowed even more brightly, illuminating the entire sky. The light passed through Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's palm prints and continued to hit their defensive martial arts. Bang! Bang! With 2 loud bangs, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's bodies trembled. They groaned and spat out a mouthful of blood. Their bodies were thrown back, and they crossed 1,000 meters in an instant. Enter the blood realm and devil's den. Lu Ming growled. He and Xian Yanqing struck forward with their palms again. The powerful force pushed them back. The next moment, they disappeared into the mist of the blood realm and devil's denver. Buzz! Buzz! 6 figures appeared and stopped outside the blood realm and devil's denver. Then a sword light flashed and Qiu Changkong appeared. However, his face was extremely gloomy as he stared at the blood realm and devil's cave in front of him. Young Master Changkong, don't be rash. An old man shouted. He was afraid that Qiu Changkong would rush in on a whim. The blood realm and devil's cave was a legendary forbidden land. Unless one was a martial king, they would only die if they rushed in. No one under the rank of martial king had ever come out alive. Qiu Changkong fell silent for a moment, but he still didn't rush in. Leave a few people here to guard this place. If those 2 really come out, kill them without mercy. Qiu Changkong instructed. Yes. The others bowed and acknowledged. Humph, Lu Yuntian. No matter who saved you, no matter where you're hiding, I'm going to find you. Qiu Changkong's voice was as cold as the tip of a sword. After that, Qiu Changkong stepped out and disappeared in the blink of an eye. 2 of them left with Qiu Changkong, leaving 4 behind to guard the place. The moment Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing rushed into the blood realm and devil's cave, they felt the world spinning. When they calmed down, they found themselves in a desolate land. Not a single blade of grass grew on the ground, and a blood-colored mist floated in the air. He looked around but found that he couldn't find the direction at all, and he didn't know where he had come from. I've implicated you this time. Lu Ming looked at Xian Yanqing and sighed. Don't think too much. My goal is to step on you. Xian Yanqing said coldly. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. He could not figure out Xian Yanqing's temper at all. However, no matter what, it was all thanks to Xian Yanqing. Otherwise, it would not have been so easy to save Lu Yuntian. Let's find a place to recuperate, Lu Ming said. After blocking the attacks of the 4th-tier martial grandmaster realm and Qiu Changkong's sword, both of them had suffered serious injuries. Humph! Xian Yanqing snorted, picked a random direction, and walked forward. Lu Ming followed. Even though the Forsaken Land was desolate, there were still living beings that appeared. However, this place was absolutely dead silent. The earth was reddish-brown, and there was not even a single blade of grass. It was completely bare. The 2 of them walked for dozens of miles and everything around them was the same. There was no direction, no life, and no way out. Let's recuperate first, Lu Ming said. This time Xian Yanqing didn't refute. The 2 of them sat down and began to heal. However, the next moment Lu Ming opened his eyes. This was because he felt that there was no spiritual qi in the world, only a brutal and wild aura. Xian Yanqing was also a little shocked. Then they took out spiritual crystals and started to absorb the spiritual qi in them to heal. After half a day, the 2's injuries were much better, and they continued to move forward. And NBSP. At this moment, the 2 of them discovered that the blood-colored mist around them was much thicker than before, greatly reducing their visibility. Even with their cultivation, they could only see a few hundred meters away. Any further and it would be a blur. The 2 of them raised their vigilance and continued forward. As time passed, the blood-colored mist became thicker and thicker. Their visibility dropped from hundreds of meters to 100 meters, then 80 meters, 60 meters, and 50 meters. Roar! At this time, a roar came from the distance. The two of them looked serious. There were living beings in the fog. They hadn't encountered one in such a long time, but now it had suddenly appeared, full of strangeness. The two of them were highly focused and did not continue forward. They stopped and looked around. The mist was getting thicker and thicker. The blood-colored mist was almost solid, like dark red blood. Roar! Roar! In the surroundings, more and more howls could be heard, and they became more and more concentrated. It was unknown how many there were. Roar! Suddenly, a roar came from beside the two of them. A murderous aura filled the air, and a bloody mist billowed. A pale white claw grabbed at Xian Yanqing. This claw was like a human palm, but its nails were long and as sharp as blades. Its arm was covered in green hair. Xian Yanqing's expression changed. He waved his hand and a black lotus appeared. The petals flew out and attacked the pale claw. Buzz! Buzz! The black lotus petals struck the pale claw, producing a metallic sound and sparks. It was actually not cut in half. However, this attack also caused the pale white claw to withdraw. The fog churned, and the two seemed to see a tall figure that instantly disappeared into the distance. Oh! Chapter 269. Chapter 269. Chapter 269 Blood Corpse and Blood Demon. 549690339. The two of them looked even more serious. This blood realm in Devil's Den was too strange. The two of them focused their attention on their surroundings. Roar! Behind him, another pale arm covered in green hair reached out to grab Lu Ming. Bang! Lu Ming swung his long spear and it hit the claw. With a bang, Lu Ming saw a figure being sent flying. All around, the roars continued. Some were filled with fierceness, while some were like screams of pain. Who? The blood mist churned and a tall figure pounced toward Lu Ming. Before it even reached him, the stench of blood filled the air. This is... Lu Ming could finally see the monster clearly. It was in the form of a human and was unusually tall. It was 2 heads taller than Lu Ming and had long green fur all over its body. Its eyes were blood red and it had sharp teeth. Could this be a blood corpse? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He was somewhat shocked. The so-called blood corpse was a transformation of a martial artist after they died in battle. It was a type of zombie, but its body was impervious to swords and spears and was extremely strong. Without much time to think, the long spear pierced forward like a rainbow. The long spear pierced through the blood corpse's body, but Lu Ming did not look happy. This was because he felt that the blood corpse's body was like an Iron Man. Although he had pierced through the blood corpse's body, it had taken him a lot of effort. Buzz! The long spear shook and the blood corpse was sent flying. However, the roars continued and blood zombies continued to charge at the two. Some of the blood zombies actually started killing each other. Retreat! Lu Ming shouted. The two of them rushed to the back, but the situation was still the same. There were blood zombies constantly rushing over, fearlessly roaring and full of killing intent, constantly pouncing at the two of them. These blood zombies were very strong. The weakest of them was at the 7th or 8th grade of the Great Martial Master Realm, while the stronger ones were at the peak of the 9th grade Great Martial Master Realm. They were even close to the battle power of a Martial Ancestor Realm. The key was that there were too many of them, and they were very difficult to kill. The two of them immediately fell into a passive position. Great Demonic Palm! Xian Yanqing's body was filled with black true qi. Black lotus flowers danced around him. He waved his palms and black palm prints flew out, knocking away the blood zombies one after another. Lu Ming's long spear danced like a fire dragon and swept out, sending 5 to 6 blood zombies flying. However, more blood zombies pounced over. The two of them fought as they charged. However, the blood zombies seemed to be endless as they swarmed in from all directions. The battle continued like this, and in the blink of an eye, more than an hour had passed. The two of them had lost a lot of true qi, and they were already drenched in sweat. This can't go on. I'll definitely die from exhaustion. Lu Ming's mind was racing. The fog has thinned. Suddenly Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He found that the blood-colored mist around him had become lighter, and his visibility was slowly increasing. He could vaguely see that there were blood zombies all around him. Most of the blood zombies were actually killing each other and biting each other. If the mist becomes lighter, perhaps the blood zombies will retreat. Lu Ming made a guess. This was because when they first entered, the blood mist wasn't thick, and there were no blood zombies. Only when the blood mist became thicker did the blood zombies appear. Lu Ming guessed that the appearance of the blood corpse was related to the blood mist. As time passed, the fog slowly faded. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing seemed to see hope. But in the next moment, roar! An earth-shaking roar was heard, shaking the earth and the sky. In the distance, an unimaginably dense blood qi permeated the air. Lu Ming took a closer look and his heart started to beat rapidly. That was not blood qi, it was clearly a huge monster. The huge creature was at least 100 meters tall. It was like a mountain as it ran wildly on the ground. It looked like a giant male lion, but the difference was that its body seemed to be made of blood, and it emitted a strong bloody smell. It opened its mouth and howled, its voice shaking the heavens. An aura as deep as the ocean spread out. Then it opened its mouth and sucked in the blood zombies one by one, disappearing. Blood demon. Could this be the legendary blood demon? Xian Yanqing's voice trembled. It was not only her voice. Lu Ming could feel that even her body was trembling. Let's go. Lu Ming pulled Xian Yanqing's hand and ran back in big steps. This blood demon was too powerful. Its aura was as deep as the ocean, and it was unfathomable. It was impossible for them to fight him. The two of them ran wildly. The blood zombies at the side seemed to be extremely shocked. They gave up on attacking Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing and ran for their lives. Roar! Heaven and earth shook as the blood demon's huge body rushed toward Lu Ming and Lin Fan. It can't be. Lu Ming felt bitter in his heart. He used all his strength to run, but his speed was still much slower than the blood demon. In the blink of an eye, the blood demon approached the two of them, its blood-red eyes staring at them. Are we going to die here today? Lu Ming could not help but think. No, I can't die. I just saved my father and haven't avenged him yet. I can't die. Lu Ming roared loudly. His eyes were filled with determination and he was highly focused. Human Dao Palm. Lu Ming shouted and struck out with his palm. This palm made Lu Ming's state reach its peak. Boom! A huge palm print was formed. It was almost solid and it was twice as big as the previous ones. At the moment of life and death, Lu Ming's human path palm had a breakthrough and reached the 3rd level. Previously, Lu Ming had cultivated for a few months in the Earth Cave and the Divine Wind Valley before he broke through to the 2nd level. Now that he was on the verge of death, he actually broke through again. The 3rd level of the human path palm was unprecedentedly powerful. It struck the blood demon with an earth-shattering force. Roar! The blood demon roared with disdain in his eyes. He opened his mouth and spat out a blood light, striking the human Dao palm. Like a popped bubble, the 3rd level of the human path palm was destroyed. The difference in strength was too great. It was not something that a single martial technique could make up for. Roar! The blood demon roared and pounced on the two of them. It opened its mouth wide and a terrifying suction force was produced. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were sucked into the blood demon's mouth without any resistance and disappeared. Roar! The blood devil let out a satisfied roar and continued to attack the blood zombies. Grab it! As soon as they entered the blood demon's mouth, Lu Ming grabbed Xian Yanqing's little hand. The two of them followed the strong suction force and fell down. Don't let me go. At that moment, Xian Yanqing's face was pale. His eyes were filled with fear as he grabbed Lu Ming's hands tightly. At this moment, she was just like an ordinary little girl, so fragile that she needed to be protected. Hold on. Don't give up until the last moment. Lu Ming shouted. Essential qi gushed out as he tried to escape from the gravitational force. However, it was useless. The gravitational force was too strong. And NBSP. After a few breaths, the two of them landed on a soft area, surrounded by a thick blood-colored mist. This blood-colored mist had a terrifying corrosive power. As soon as the two of them landed, they felt a burning pain on their skin. The two of them immediately circulated their true qi to protect their bodies, but it was of little use. Their true qi was being consumed rapidly. The two of them did not have much genuine qi left after the battle. It did not take long for them to use up all their genuine qi. The blood-red martial mist began to corrode their bodies. Chapter 270. Chapter 270. Chapter 279 Sons Supreme. 549690339. Xian Yanqing suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His body swayed and his face turned pale. "Hold on!" Lu Ming roared. But Xian Yanqing's body was shaking, his eyes were unfocused, and he shouted, "Lu Ming, I'm going to stomp on you." After saying that, his body went soft and he actually fell down directly, falling into a coma. Lu Ming was so angry that he wanted to laugh. This woman was still thinking about this at this time. Whoosh! The corrosive mist in the surroundings caused his skin to burn and sting. Furthermore, this mist would seep into one's skin, causing one to fall into a state of drowsiness. Could it be that I'm really going to die here this time? Lu Ming thought to himself, but he felt extremely indignant in his heart. However, his body was indeed getting weaker and weaker, and his spirit was also getting more and more deficient. Arg! I want to hold on, I want to get out of here alive. I want to step onto the peak of martial arts. Lu Ming roared in his heart and tried his best to resist. Giving in was not in his character. However, this mist was too strange and too powerful. It was not something that could be done by not submitting to it. Just as Lu Ming was about to fall unconscious, the world suddenly turned upside down. Lu Ming found himself in another place. Supreme Shrine, this is the Supreme Shrine. Lu Ming was a little surprised and puzzled. Wasn't the Supreme Shrine a place that he couldn't enter when he was in danger? He had tried many times in the past, but it was useless. He didn't expect it to come in automatically. However, Lu Ming looked up and was a little surprised. He realized that he was not on the first three platforms but on the platform at the highest point. Below him was a long flight of stairs that led to the bottom. On the other side was a palace which was exactly the same as the one he had seen on the first three platforms. Xian Yanqing was lying next to him, still unconscious. How did I appear at the highest point? Lu Ming was a little surprised. He looked into the palace. The palace's door was open, and it was dark inside. A figure could be vaguely seen sitting cross-legged inside. Suddenly the figure moved. He actually stood up and walked out. Ta! With the sound of footsteps, Lu Ming's heart started to beat rapidly. It had been more than 2 years since he had obtained the Supreme Shrine. Lu Ming was extremely curious about the palace and the people inside. He had always wanted to see what it was, but he couldn't get there, so he had to give up. Now could he finally get his wish? Ta! Light footsteps could be heard and a figure walked out. It was a middle-aged man wearing a red battle robe with a sun embroidered on it. He was tall and muscular, with a tough and stocky build. When he opened his eyes, it was as if 2 suns were emerging. The aura he gave off was as deep as the vast universe. Just by standing there, he seemed to be able to swallow the world and look down on everything. Facing him, Lu Ming seemed to be facing the entire world. However, in the next moment, the middle-aged man's aura disappeared. He looked like a mortal. He looked at Lu Ming with a complicated expression. Lu Ming was stunned for a moment before he stepped forward and cupped his fists in greeting. Junior Lu Ming pays his respects to Senior. You don't need to introduce me. I've been following you for years. The middle-aged man's voice was filled with dominance. As expected. Senior. Thank you for saving me this time. Lu Ming said. Don't be happy. I didn't want to save you at first. I just didn't want to waste a drop of the 9 dragons' blood essence. The middle-aged man said with a casual smile. Then he sized Lu Ming up carefully and said, Are you very curious about who I am? What is this place? Oh, that's right, please tell me, Senior. Lu Ming said. He was indeed extremely curious. The main reason he had his current achievements was because of the Supreme Shrine. All right, I can tell you. the middle-aged man said. Then he placed his hands behind his back and walked back and forth a few steps, as if he was in deep thought. I am the Nine Suns Paragon, the middle-aged man said after a long while. What? Lu Ming's body and mind trembled. His pupils widened and he had an incredulous look on his face. You're the Supreme Nine Yang of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace? Lu Ming asked. Is there a second Supreme Master of the Nine Suns in the world? The middle-aged man said coldly. Lu Ming gasped in shock. There was no other reason. The Nine Suns' cosmos supremacy's background was simply too great. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to describe him as world-famous. Lu Ming had long heard of the reputation of the Nine Suns' cosmos supremacy. However, to him the Nine Suns' supremacy was just a legendary figure. The Nine Suns Supreme was from the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. He was the first disciple of Martial Emperor Di of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. His cultivation base was earth-shattering and unparalleled. He was known as the Nine Suns Supreme, and his cultivation was infinitely close to the martial royal realm. He was the invincible god of war of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. Such a person could annihilate the 36 empires of Emperor Yun with a snap of his fingers. How could he be here, hiding in such a palace? As if sensing Lu Ming's doubts, Nine Suns Supreme sighed and said, What you're seeing now is not my true body. I'm actually already dead. This is just a wisp of my soul. What? You're already dead? Lu Ming found it hard to believe. With the cultivation and combat strength of the Nine Suns Supreme, who could kill him? Even a martial emperor might not be able to kill him. That's right. I'm dead. The one who killed me was my master, the ruler of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace, Martial Emperor Di, the Supreme Master of the Nine Suns said coldly. Lu Ming was shocked and somewhat dumbfounded. Nine Suns Supreme had been killed by his master, Martial Emperor Di. How could this be possible? You must be very surprised, right? Supreme Master Jiang sneered. That's right. It's quite unexpected. Lu Ming did not hide anything. Ha ha ha, what's there to be surprised about? That old man is just a treacherous villain. He can do anything. The Nine Suns Supreme Master laughed in anger. His voice was filled with hatred and killing intent. Boy, do you want to know why that old man would kill me? And why you awakened the bloodline of 9 dragons? Supreme Nine Suns said. The bloodline of the 9 dragons? Could it be that my bloodline is called the bloodline of the 9 dragons? But what are the 9 dragons? Lu Ming was full of doubts. Of course he nodded repeatedly. All right. Then I'll tell you the whole story, Supreme Nine Suns said. Then he began to explain the entire story in detail. The 9 dragons were extremely ancient and powerful beings in the world. Legend had it that they were one of the true dragons, but they were different from the true dragons as they were a variation of the true dragons. True dragons had 5 claws and were called 5-clawed true dragons. The 9 dragons, on the other hand, had 9 claws. They were extremely terrifying and invincible. Ordinary true dragons were far inferior to them. It was said that since ancient times, there had only been one dragon in the world. And the divine wilderness continent had an immemorial barren land. It was said to be the ruins of the 9 dragons, and it was extremely dangerous. With his powerful strength and terrifying bloodline, the Supreme Master of 9 Suns had broken through the 9 dragon ruins once and obtained some things. Among them were 2 drops of 9 dragon blood essence. Oh. Chapter 271. Chapter 271. Chapter 271 Hidden Story. 549690339. Although the Supreme Master of the 9 Suns had successfully come out of the 9 dragon ruins and brought back 2 drops of 9 dragon blood essence, he had also been injured. However, he had never expected that his master, Martial Emperor Di, would suddenly attack him and seriously injure him. He had also taken away his 9 Yang bloodline. Martial Emperor Di had also taken one of the 2 drops of 9 dragon blood essence. However, Martial Emperor Di had underestimated 9 Suns Supreme. 9 Suns Supreme's 9 Suns bloodline was a divine bloodline, which was extremely mysterious. At the critical moment, 9 Suns Supreme self-destructed his body and bloodline, and escaped with the Supreme Shrine as a wisp of his remaining soul. At the same time, it also brought out a drop of 9 dragon blood essence. Later, his Supreme Divine Hall turned into a bronze pendant to avoid the pursuit of Dian Martial Emperor. After decades, it finally fell into the hands of Lu Yuntian. Ha ha, I finally understand now. That hypocrite accepted me as a disciple and taught me martial arts. It was a conspiracy from the beginning. From the beginning, he planned to deprive me of my 9 Yang bloodline. He wanted to use my 9 Yang bloodline to break through to the Supreme Realm. Despicable, sinister. The most sinister person in the world is that old man. Supreme Being of the 9 Suns roared hysterically, his eyes filled with a bone-chilling killing intent. His bloodline was stripped? Lu Ming muttered as he looked at 9 Suns Supreme with sympathy. The Supreme Being of the 9 Suns, how similar was his experience? The difference was that the 9 Suns Supreme had his bloodline taken away by the person he respected, while his bloodline had been taken away by the person he loved. Kid, you should know by now that the reason you were able to awaken your bloodline again after it was stolen was because I fused that drop of 9 dragon blood essence into your body. The reason why I did that was because your experiences were similar to mine. It touched me. I wanted to nurture you into a peerless genius, to become a peerless expert. That was why I set up layers of stairs in the Supreme Shrine, allowing you to grow step by step. Unfortunately, you have disappointed me too much. Your talent is not bad, but you are reckless. Do you know that you almost died just now? The 9 Suns Supreme roared, answering Lu Ming's question. Lu Ming came to a sudden realization, but he could not help but smile bitterly. The reason why he was in such a desperate situation was because he wanted to save his father. If he could do it all over again, he would do the same. Brat, this is the only time you can seek refuge in the Supreme Shrine. There won't be a next time. The Supreme Shrine isn't a place for you to seek refuge. The Supreme Shrine's inscription formation won't disappear, so you won't be able to enter in a life and death situation. The 9 Suns Supreme Martial Artist said with bright eyes. Lu Ming came to a sudden realization. It turned out that he could not enter the Supreme Shrine during every great battle because the 9 Suns Supreme did not allow him to enter. Lu Ming nodded. This was exactly what he wanted. Every unparalleled expert had been tempered through constant life and death situations. Boy, now that you've merged with the blood essence of 9 dragons and awakened the bloodline of 9 dragons, it's extremely magical and can continue to evolve. I don't know how far you can go, but your future is limitless. Supreme 9 Suns said. This is all thanks to Senior's help. Lu Ming cupped his fists and bowed. He could not help but look happy. The 9 dragons were terrifying existences that were more powerful than the true dragon. Now that Lu Ming knew about it, he was naturally happy. 9 Suns Paragon glanced at Lu Ming and sneered, Brat, don't be happy too early. It won't be long before you'll be in deep trouble. Senior, what do you mean? Lu Ming was stunned. I got 2 drops of 9 dragon blood essence. One of them fell into Di's hands. With Di's cultivation, he must have refined the 9 dragon blood essence. The blood essence of the 9 dragons can sense each other. Your cultivation is still weak, so Di can't sense you yet. According to my estimation, as soon as you break through to the martial arts Grandmaster realm, Di will be able to sense you in an instant. At that time, you will inevitably be deprived of your bloodline again. Supreme 9 Suns said. Lu Ming's expression changed drastically. There was such a thing? What kind of person was Martial Emperor Di? He was a top expert in the Divine Wilderness continent and an overlord. If he really wanted to kill him, he could kill him tens of thousands of times with just a breath. If Martial Emperor Di discovered the 9 dragons' bloodline in his body, he would definitely die. No one could save him. Did he have to stay in the Great Martial Master realm for the rest of his life and not break through to the Martial Ancestor realm? No, this was impossible. As a martial artist, the goal of cultivation was to keep breaking through and become stronger. Not allowing him to break through was worse than killing him. What do we do? Is there no other way? Lu Ming's mind was racing. Suddenly, he saw a faint smile on the face of the 9 Suns Cosmos Supremacy. Senior, do you have any ideas? He asked with cupped fists. I do have a way, but why should I help you? The Supreme Martial Artist of the 9 Suns said with a smile. Lu Ming was stunned. It was true. Why would the Nine Suns' cosmos supremacy help him? Actually, I can help you if you agree to one condition. The Nine Suns' Supreme Master suddenly said. It's all thanks to you that Lu Ming is able to achieve what he has today. Please state your conditions. As long as it's within Lu Ming's means, I won't refuse. Lu Ming said. Okay, my condition is that you must agree to kill Di and avenge me. The Nine Suns' Supreme Master said word by word. His eyes filled with cold killing intent. He killed Martial Emperor Di? Lu Ming's heart trembled. He then smiled bitterly and said, Senior, are you kidding me? With my cultivation, even if Martial Emperor Di stood there for me to kill, I wouldn't be able to. It was not that Lu Ming was not confident, but the gap was too big, so big that it was beyond his imagination. I'm not asking you to kill Di now. I want you to promise me that you will kill Di in the future after you have improved your cultivation. Supreme Nine Suns said. The future? Lu Ming muttered. What's wrong? You don't have the confidence? But let me tell you, there will be a battle between you and Di. It is inevitable. It has been inevitable since you integrated with the Nine Dragon Blood Essence. Even if you don't go to him, he will come to you. It is only a matter of time. Supreme Master Zhiyang sneered. Senior, I promise you that I will kill Di one day. Lu Ming suddenly spoke. His voice was firm and unusually determined. The eyes of the Nine Suns' Supreme Master lit up, and then he laughed out loud. Okay, I believe you. And let me tell you, if you can kill Di and take his other drop of Nine Dragon Blood Essence, you will gain endless benefits. You can even break through the Martial Royal Realm and enter a Supreme Realm. Seeing that Lu Ming had agreed, Nine Suns Supreme was extremely excited. Over the past few years, he had set up those stairs in order to nurture Lu Ming, hoping that he would avenge him in the future. Well, Senior Huang, you know that Di is a martial emperor. It is too difficult to reach that realm. Do you have any benefits for me? For example, divine-level martial skills, divine-level elixirs, divine weapons, and so on. Just give me a dozen of them. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with greed as he stared at the Nine Suns' cosmos supremacy. Oh. Chapter 272. Chapter 272, Nine Dragons Heaven Stomping Steps. 549690339. The Nine Suns' cosmos supremacy was a figure who was infinitely close to a martial emperor. His combat strength was even more terrifying. To put it bluntly, a single hair from such a figure could benefit him greatly. It was not in Lu Ming's character to not take advantage of him. The eyelids of the Nine Suns' supreme martial artist kept twitching, and the corners of his mouth were trembling. A god-level martial technique? Divine-level medicinal pill? Dozens of them. What did Lu Ming think a god-level was? Cabbages. Senior, what's wrong? Was he not feeling well? Why is the corner of your mouth trembling? Lu Ming asked in surprise. No, nothing. Supreme Master Zhiyang took a deep breath to calm himself down and continued. You may be disappointed about this. I escaped as a wisp of my remnant soul. After I came out, I only brought this supreme shrine and a drop of Nine Dragons' blood essence. As for the things I placed on the first few platforms, they were all obtained by accident after I escaped. Also, there's actually nothing on the platforms at the back. I deliberately placed a box on each platform to motivate you to work hard in cultivation. Supreme Master Zhiyang said with slight embarrassment. Ah, the platforms behind are empty? Lu Ming was dumbfounded and speechless. After a while he asked tentatively, even if I don't have any treasures, I'm sure you do have some martial skills. As the Nine Suns Supreme, Senior should know a lot of cultivation methods and martial skills. Just pass me a few of them. Cough cough. Nine Suns Supreme coughed a few times and said, I'm afraid I can't do that. Di knows all the martial techniques I have practiced. Once you practice the martial techniques I have practiced, Di will probably sense it. A martial royal realm expert is too powerful. This. Lu Ming was completely speechless. It turned out that there was no benefit at all for him to agree to avenge him and kill Martial Emperor Di. But don't be disappointed. I can't give you what I've cultivated, but I can still teach you what I haven't. When I came to the Nine Dragon Ruins, I didn't only bring 2 drops of Nine Dragon Blood Essence, but also a cultivation technique and a martial technique. That cultivation technique is the true war dragon technique that you're cultivating. It's a god-tier cultivation technique. There's also a martial technique that goes with the true war dragon technique. It's called the 9 Dragons Heaven Treading Steps. It's also a god-tier martial technique. Nine Suns Supreme Martial Artist also felt a little embarrassed and quickly said, "What? Is there really a god-level martial technique?" Lu Ming's heart trembled. His eyes emitted a bright glow like 2 bright suns. When he mentioned the god-level martial techniques and god-level elixirs, he was simply asking for too much. He never thought that the 9 Suns Supreme would really have god-level martial techniques. It was a divine martial technique, and its name seemed to be related to the 9 dragons. 9 Suns Supreme Master waved his hand, and a secret manual flew out of the main hall. The secret manual was neither gold nor jade, and it was impossible to tell what material it was made of. This is the 9 Dragons Heaven Stomping Steps. According to my speculation, it should be a martial technique created by the 9 dragons. Its power is terrifying and boundless. Even I have never cultivated it before. You're really lucky. 9 Suns Supreme handed the manual to Lu Ming. Lu Ming hurriedly took it and opened it to read in joy. As soon as he flipped it open, it was as if he saw a real dragon with 9 claws walking in the sky. A terrifying aura acted on Lu Ming's body, and he felt excruciating pain all over his body, as if he was about to be torn apart. At this time, the 9 Suns Supreme Master waved his hand and closed the 9 Dragons Heaven Stomping Steps. Only then did the terrifying aura disappear. "Brat, don't open it unless you're strong enough. Otherwise, you won't even know how you're going to die." The Supreme Master of the 9 Suns shouted coldly. Lu Ming broke out in a cold sweat. This was only a secret manual. It was too terrifying, right? "Kid, this manual contains a trace of the 9 dragons' chi. Ordinary people can't withstand it. Also, with your current cultivation and physical strength, you can't practice the 9 Dragons Heaven Treading Steps at all. You can only start practicing it when you break through the first realm of Martial Ancestor Realm, and your physical strength reaches the 4th grade. The Supreme Martial Artist of the 9 Suns warned. "Many thanks, Senior." Lu Ming carefully put away the 9 Dragons Heaven Stomping Steps, but he sighed in his heart. The requirements were too high. It was still alright to break through to the martial arts Grandmaster realm. Lu Ming believed that he would be able to break through soon. However, it would not be so easy to reach the 4th grade physical body. Although Lu Ming's physical body had reached the 3rd grade, it was very difficult for him to break through to the 4th grade. First of all, he had to have a technique that could allow him to cultivate his body to the 4th stage. At the same time, he also needed an opportunity. Otherwise, he might not be able to break through in several years. I must meet these conditions as soon as possible. Holding a god-level martial skill but not being able to cultivate it was not a good feeling. Alright, next. I'll help you conceal the aura of the 9 Dragon Blood Essence. Sit tight, relax your mind, and control the bloodline to appear. The Supreme Martial Artist of the 9 Suns instructed. Lu Ming nodded and sat down cross-legged. His body glowed as his spirit-devouring bloodline, no, it should be called the 9 Dragons Bloodline, emerged and floated quietly above Lu Ming's head. "Let's go," the 9 Suns Supreme Master shouted. His body emitted endless light, and a sun appeared above his head. After a few breaths, another sun appeared. In the next minute, a total of 9 suns appeared around the 9 Suns Supreme. The 9 suns hovered around the 9 Suns Supreme, like the gods of the sun. Suppress seal. 9 Dragons Bloodline. 9 Suns Supreme Master shouted. The 9 suns emitted endless light, which then rushed toward the 9 dragon bloodlines and covered them, forming a seal that sealed the aura of the 9 dragon bloodlines. Half an hour later, the 9 suns around 9 Suns Supreme Master suddenly disappeared. 9 Suns Supreme Master's body trembled and almost fell to the ground. "Senior, are you alright?" Lu Ming quickly stood up and supported 9 Suns Cosmos. The 9 Suns Supreme Master's face was pale, and his body had become much fainter, as if he would dissipate at any time. Sealing the bloodline of the 9 dragons requires a huge amount of energy. After I help you seal it, you will fall into a deep sleep not long after. Once you fall into a deep sleep, I don't know when you will wake up again. The Supreme Master of the Nine Suns heaved a long sigh. Senior, Lu Ming is unable to repay Senior's kindness. Lu Ming bowed to the Nine Suns Supreme with sincerity. You just need to avenge me. Also, I have to tell you something seriously. I can help you seal the aura of the Nine Dragon bloodline, but only for 10 years. After 10 years, my sealing power will dissipate. At that time, D and Martial Emperor will sense you. So, you only have 10 years. In these 10 years, you must keep breaking through and growing. At least, you must have the ability to escape from D's pursuit. Otherwise, everything will be over. The Nine Suns Supreme Martial Artist said solemnly. 10 years, only 10 years? Lu Ming's heart stirred. What's wrong? Don't you have the confidence? Supreme Nine Suns said. Of course. 10 years. That's enough time. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with a trace of fighting spirit. Good. Now I'll subdue that blood demon while I'm at it. After all, you're still inside its body. The Martial Emperor of Nine Suns muttered. A wave of fluctuation was emitted from his body and he disappeared. Then a blood-colored token appeared in his hand. He passed the blood-red token to Lu Ming and said, "This is the demon-suppressing token. You can use it to control the blood devils. Alright, I've said all that I need to say. From now on, you'll have to depend on yourself." After saying that, Nine Suns Supreme Master staggered toward the main hall. Senior, if Lu Ming's cultivation is successful in the future, I'll definitely think of a way to save you. Lu Ming shouted. Save me? Even a Martial Emperor can't do it. Supreme Master of the Nine Suns sighed, then walked into the hall and disappeared. Oh. Chapter 273. Chapter 273, 10 Years Martial Emperor. 549690339. Lu Ming sighed as he looked at the Nine Suns Supreme's lonely back. He was a supreme expert who had dominated the world, but he had ended up like this. It was a pity. 10 years, 10 years. Lu Ming muttered. It was almost impossible to grow to the point where he could compete with Martial Emperor D in 10 years. The difference was too great. His cultivation was only at the 9th grade Great Martial Master realm. Above the Martial Grandmaster realm were the Martial Ancestor realm, the Martial King realm, and the Spiritual God realm. Above the 3 Spiritual God realms was the Martial Emperor realm. There was a difference of 6 major realms. The difference was too great. No matter how difficult it is, I have to try my best. If I don't try, how do I know it won't work? Lu Ming's eyes were filled with determination. Then he looked at Xian Yanqing, who was still unconscious. We can't let anyone else know about the Nine Suns Supreme. Who knows if Martial Emperor Di will notice? Let's leave this place first. Lu Ming pondered for a moment. Then he walked over and pulled Xian Yanqing along. With a thought, they disappeared from the Supreme Shrine. Roar! The blood demon's roar shook the heavens and earth. As soon as they left the Supreme Shrine, Lu Ming realized that they were not in the blood demon's stomach but on its back. The blood demon felt that there were 2 more people on his back. He immediately flew into a rage and roared repeatedly. The blood chi surged and swept towards Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Demon Suppressing Token. Lu Ming waved his hand and the Demon Suppressing Token appeared. It floated in the air automatically. An invisible wave was emitted and surged toward the blood demon. Roar! The blood demon roared, as if it was extremely frightened. It let out a low wail and finally knelt down. Submissive. Lu Ming was pleasantly surprised. At the same time, he was amazed by the Nine Suns Cosmos methods. The Nine Suns Supreme was just a wisp of soul. He was already at the end of his life when he helped him seal the bloodline of the 9 dragons. Under such circumstances, he could make the blood demon submit to him by simply condensing a demon suppressing token. The power of his means was already incredible. Let's continue forward. Lu Ming patted the blood demon. Roar! The blood demon growled, got up, and continued to run forward. The blood demon was obviously the overlord of this area. With him leading the way, this area was unimpeded. Aya, am I dead? Suddenly, Xian Yanqing shouted and jumped up from the blood demon's back. His big black eyes looked around. The next moment he saw Lu Ming and could not help but call out, Lu Ming, you're dead too? We're in the netherworld? It's all your fault, but I still have an unfulfilled wish. Xian Yanqing closed his eyes and sighed. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. He was stunned for a while before he said, "Who said I'm dead? I'm still alive and well." "You didn't die? Then why are you with me? I know, did you capture my soul? What do you want to do? You won't even let go of my soul, you despicable, shameless, perverted pervert." As soon as Xian Yanqing heard that Lu Ming was not dead, he began to curse and his body kept shrinking back. This. Lu Ming was completely dumbfounded. He stared at Xian Yanqing in a daze. Xian Yanqing's eyes widened as he looked at Lu Ming warily. After a while he realized that something was wrong. He looked around and shouted, "So I'm not dead either. Not good. How are we going to get on the Blood Devil's back? Let's think of a way to get out of this place. Escape? If you want to run. Lu Ming sat there calmly, looking calm and relaxed. "You're not running." Xian Yanqing's eyes turned and he felt that something was wrong. Of course not. With this Blood Devil leading the way, what's the point of running? Lu Ming said indifferently. Blood Devil leading the way? Wait, what's going on? Why isn't the Blood Devil attacking us? Xian Yanqing noticed that the Blood Demon had been moving obediently, unlike the previous time when it would pounce on them. "Don't worry. I've already subdued it," Lu Ming said indifferently. "Subdued by you? How is that possible? You think you can subdue this Blood Devil?" Xian Yanqing asked a series of questions. She would never believe him. This Blood Demon was extremely ferocious and powerful. She estimated that even if it had not reached the level of a martial king, it was not far from it. Could Lu Ming subdue it? How was that possible? But the next moment, her beautiful eyes suddenly widened. Lu Ming said lightly, "Little Blood, stop." Then the Blood Demon stopped and growled in a low voice, seemingly trying to please Lu Ming. "Little Blood, get down." With another light sentence, Blood Devil obediently lay down. Xian Yanqing's eyes were about to pop out, and his mouth was so wide open that a duck egg could be stuffed in. Her beautiful face was filled with disbelief. The Blood Demon had actually been subdued by Lu Ming. Moreover, it was the kind that was obedient. Most importantly, what did Lu Ming call the Blood Demon? Little Blood. Xian Yanqing felt like he was in a mess. "Ha ha ha, what do you think? Don't you admire me? Do you have the urge to repay me with your body?" Seeing Xian Yanqing's expression, Lu Ming felt extremely pleased. He laughed heartily with a smug expression on his face. His smile was so wide that it almost reached his ears. "Promise your head. Humph. Who knows what kind of despicable method you used to subdue this Blood Devil? Humph. You are a despicable bastard. One day I will step on you." Xian Yanqing snorted coldly and glared at Lu Ming a few times. Then he turned around and did not look at Lu Ming. However, she was still shocked and curious about Lu Ming. She did not know what method Lu Ming had used to subdue the Blood Demon. Lu Ming smiled. He knew Xian Yanqing's temper and could not be bothered to argue with her. Then the Blood Demon continued on its way. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing sat cross-legged on the Blood Demon's back, channeling and healing their injuries. About half a day later, the scenery in front of them changed. In front of them, a huge semicircular light screen enveloped them. Lu Ming and the rest were inside this semicircular light screen. It was a huge inscription formation. It was only then that Lu Ming found out that the Blood Realm and Devil's Den was in a huge inscription array. No wonder he couldn't tell the direction the moment he entered the formation. The only difference was that there was a stone door here. The stone door was huge and was tightly shut, embedded in the light screen. This stone door might be the exit. Lu Ming made a guess. He ordered Blood Demon to charge forward. Roar! Roar! Suddenly, two earth-shaking roars came from the huge stone door. The stone door glowed, and two huge strange beasts appeared in front of the stone door. These two strange beasts were incomparably huge, and their entire bodies emitted a blood-red radiance. The moment it appeared, it glared at Lu Ming and the rest. Lu Ming's expression changed and he immediately shouted, "Little Blood, destroy them!" Roar! The Blood Demon let out a furious roar and rushed toward the two strange beasts. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing jumped down from the blood demon. Immediately, the three humongous creatures began to fight each other. The blood qi was boiling, and the battle was extremely intense. The two strange beasts were also extremely powerful, but unfortunately, they were still inferior to the blood demon. Soon, the two beasts were torn apart by the blood demon and swallowed in a few bites. Oh! Chapter 274. Chapter 274. The Ruins of the Cloud Emperor Palace. 549690339. After the two strange beasts were killed, the stone door no longer moved. "Little blood, break the stone door!" Lu Ming shouted. The blood demon roared and ran toward the stone gate. Boom! It slammed heavily against the stone door, causing it to shake violently. The entire world seemed to be shaking. However, the stone door did not open. "Continue!" Lu Ming shouted. The blood demon continued to attack, and the stone door kept shaking. Finally, it slowly opened a gap. Boom! At this moment, Lu Ming seemed to hear a deafening roar from outside the stone door. What's going on? Lu Ming frowned. But he didn't have time to think too much. He strode forward and shouted, "Let's go out." Xian Yanqing followed closely behind. Roar! At this moment, the blood demon roared loudly and stopped in its tracks. A thought was transmitted into Lu Ming's mind. Lu Ming roughly understood what the blood demon meant. It grew up here and could not get out at all. Once it got out, it would be turned into ashes. Lu Ming felt that it was a pity. If such a powerful blood demon were to follow them out, he would be able to sweep through the blazing sun empire. He might even be able to attack the omnidirectional sword sect. What a pity! Lu Ming roared in his heart, but there was nothing he could do. He could only abandon the blood demon and rush towards the stone door with Xian Yanqing. The stone door was too big. Although it was only opened a crack, it was enough for two people to pass through. Buzz! Buzz! The two of them moved like the wind. As soon as they passed through the stone door, they felt the world spin. The next moment, they found Themslavir standing on a hill. Behind him, a blood-colored mist filled the air. It was clearly the Blood Realm in Devil's Denver. In front of him were green mountains and clear waters, full of life. However, at this moment, the mountain peak in front of them trembled. A blood-colored pillar of light shot up into the sky, piercing through the clouds. It could be seen from 100 miles away. Boom! 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 On the side, another mountain peak trembled. Immediately after, another blood-colored light pillar shot out, stirring up the wind and clouds. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were both dumbfounded. Where was this place? Why did he look so unfamiliar? And this blood-red light pillar, could it be caused by them opening the huge stone door? Buzz! Buzz! At this moment, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard, and a few figures appeared in the sky. They were a few middle-aged men. The aura on their bodies was as thick as a mountain. They were obviously strong practitioners of the martial arts Grandmaster realm. There's a change outside the Blood Realm in Devil's Cave. Is there a rare treasure coming into being? Hurry up and inform the sect. The few burly men muttered to Themslavirs. Then they stepped on the air and disappeared. However, not long after, more people came. Some of them came by stepping on the air. They were all martial arts grandmasters, and there were also some martial artists in the Grandmaster realm. Through the conversation of these people, Lu Ming learned a fact that made him dumbfounded. This place was actually not within the Blazing Sun Empire's territory, but on the other side of the desolate wilderness, the border between the Bloodjiao Empire and the Yin Moon Empire. Lu Ming and the rest had actually run in the wrong direction. Lu Ming did not know whether to laugh or cry. He and Xian Yanqing stared at each other. Boom! 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 The shaking became more and more intense. In the end, a total of 9 blood-red light pillars appeared and shot into the sky. At this moment, there were already no less than 100 people gathered. Oh! This place is most likely the ruins of the ancient sect, the Cloud Emperor Palace. In the sky, a white-haired old man speculated. What? It's the ancient sect, Cloud Emperor Palace? Some people were shocked and expressed their doubts. That's a senior from the Great Sun House. His guess shouldn't be wrong. That's right. The Great Sun House is the #1 sect in the Bloodjiao. It has existed for a long time and is extremely knowledgeable. We can't compare to it. Haha. What a great opportunity. Some people were discussing excitedly. The ancient sect? Cloud Emperor Palace. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The Cloud Emperor Mountain Range was called the Cloud Emperor Mountain Range because of the Cloud Emperor Palace, which showed how powerful the Cloud Emperor Palace was. This place was actually the ruins of the Cloud Emperor Palace. Lu Ming definitely had to explore and did not want to miss it. Everyone waited in silence. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing sat cross-legged at the side, healing their injuries while waiting. As time passed, more and more people arrived. It was obvious that the news had already spread. 7 days later, there was already a sea of people in all directions. Even the sky was filled with people. Some were from the Bloodjiao Empire, and some were from the Inu Empire. Of course, most of them were from the Bloodjiao Empire. Lu Ming sighed to himself. The Bloodjiao Empire was indeed powerful. Those standing in the air were all Grandmaster-level experts. There were no less than 1,000 of them. The Bloodjiao Empire was indeed a mid-tier empire. It was extremely terrifying. The Great Sun Mansion has sent hundreds of experts and core elders. It seems that we won't get a share in the remains of the Cloud Emperor Palace. That's right. Many experts from the other sects of Bloodjiao have also come. Even the royal family of the Dark Moon Empire has come. There are also many young experts such as the 50 super rookies of the Bloodjiao Empire and the experts of the 9 heroes of the Dark Moon Empire. Nearby, the sounds of discussion could be heard from time to time. Gah! At this moment, a sharp cry resounded through the sky. It was extremely ear-piercing. Then a huge crow appeared in the sky. This crow was extremely huge, with a wingspan of 30 meters. Its body was covered in blazing flames, and the demonic chi on its body was soaring. It was a terrifying level for demonic beast. A level 4 demonic beast was equivalent to a martial arts grandmaster. On the back of the crow stood a young man in his 20s. He was wearing a fiery red robe with a big sun embroidered on it. His hands were placed behind his back as he looked at the blood-colored light pillars. He had an aura of disdain. Yang Liuji, this person is Yang Liuji? Yang Liuji, who is ranked 33rd on the Cloud Emperor board. Who else could it be besides him? Even the geniuses of the Cloud Emperor ranking are here. There was a commotion in the crowd. Clearly, the name of the 6 extremes of Yang had shaken the hearts of the people. Number 33 on the Cloud Emperor board? Is this man stronger than Cho Changkong? Lu Ming's eyes flashed. The 36 geniuses on Emperor Yun's list could be said to be the strongest 36 people of this generation in the 36 kingdoms of Emperor Yun. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, another 2 days had passed. At this moment, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's injuries had already healed. Boom! Suddenly, the 9 blood-red light pillars let out a violent roar. The light grew brighter and then actually gathered together. A moment later, the blood light disappeared, and a huge black vortex appeared in the sky. This is the spatial teleportation path. It leads to the ruins of the Cloud Emperor Palace. Charge! Immediately, dozens of people rushed into the vortex. Ah! Ah! In the next moment, a blood-curdling screech was heard. More than half of the dozens of people suddenly exploded, and their blood and flesh splattered all over the ground. However, the other half of the people rushed into the whirlpool and disappeared. What's going on? How did this happen? Why is it that when someone died, someone else charged in? What are the restrictions? Everyone else on the scene stopped, not daring to rush into the vortex. An old man with a head full of white hair appeared in front of the vortex and carefully observed it. And NBSP. Everyone recognized that he was a core elder of the Great Sun Mansion. The white-haired old man carefully observed it. After a while he said, "If I'm not wrong, this place should be covered with inscriptions of time." Oh. Chapter 275. Chapter 275. Hell of Slaughter. 549690339. What? Time type inscription? Everyone was shocked. The inscription of time was a supreme inscription, and it was extremely difficult to master. According to this old man's guess, this place has an age limit. If you exceed a certain age, you will be killed by the inscription formation in the vortex. The white-haired old man said. Then how many years can it take to enter, and how many years can it not? Someone asked. The world is divided by the age of 30. Those under 30 are the younger generation, which is the golden age for cultivation. Therefore, I speculate that those under 30 can enter this place, and those above 30 can't. The white-haired old man said. 30 years old? I've already surpassed it. I'm just 31 years old. How unlucky. Many of those who were over 30 years old had a dejected look on their faces and cried out their bad luck. As for those who were below 30 years old, they revealed a look of joy. The stronger their cultivation base, the happier they were. Since the older generation could not enter, those with higher cultivation would naturally have the advantage. How could they not be happy? Charge! Immediately, some young men under the age of 30 rushed forward. As expected, they were fine and disappeared into the vortex one by one. Ha ha ha. Ants like you also want to compete with me. Young Liuji laughed arrogantly. He was the only genius on the Cloud Emperor ranking list who came here. Who could compete with him? He stepped into the vortex and disappeared. The other young men also rushed in like bees. Lu Ming estimated that there were at least thousands of people. During this period there were also those over 30 who didn't believe in luck and wanted to take a risk, but they were all killed by the inscription formation. After that, no one else above the age of 30 dared to try again. Let's go in as well, Lu Ming said to Xian Yanqing. Xian Yanqing nodded and charged into the vortex with Lu Ming. As he rushed into the vortex, he felt his head spin. The next moment, Lu Ming found himself standing at the foot of a mountain. In front of him was a vast mountain. Xian Yanqing was right beside him. Not only that, but everyone seemed to have gathered at the foot of the mountain. At a glance, it was full of people. Boom! Suddenly, not far from Lu Ming, a great battle broke out. The people who had entered this place came from various forces. Some people already had enmity with each other, so it was very normal for a battle to break out when they met. A moment later, a young man was killed with a scream. However, at this moment a change occurred. Inscriptions suddenly appeared in the sky and wrapped around the young man who had been killed. The next moment, a shocking scene appeared. The blood and essence of the young man's body were all extracted. Under the effect of the inscriptions, it turned into a blood-red crystal and fell to the ground. Are these blood-refining crystals? It's blood-refining crystals. It's true. I have them on me. What? It's unbelievable that a dead person would be refined into a blood-refining crystal. The entire place burst into an earth-shattering uproar. Lu Ming was also shocked. The blood-refining crystal and the blood-refining pill had similar effects. They were both used by warriors to awaken their second bloodline. The effect of a blood refinement crystal was similar to a blood refinement pill. We'll know once we try. Suddenly a cold shout rang out. A sun appeared in the crowd and exploded. Miserable screams rang out continuously as more than a dozen people were killed. The next moment, a large number of runes appeared in the sky and wrapped around the corpses. Then the blood of the corpses was extracted and refined into blood-refining crystals. It really was so. Many people gasped, and many people had bloodthirsty looks in their eyes. Kill! Kill! Immediately, someone roared and charged at the people around him. Not good, let's go. There were also people who shouted as they madly rushed towards the vast mountains. The scene was in chaos, and the smell of blood filled the air. Dense runes appeared in the sky, and the blood of those who were killed all turned into blood-refining crystals. Kill! There were also people who charged at Lu Ming. Lu Ming swept out his long spear and clashed with the other party. The other party was forced back. Xian Yanqing, let's go. We'll rush into those mountains. Lu Ming shouted. There were too many geniuses who had entered this time. Most of them were young experts from the Bloodjiao Empire. There were many young experts in the martial ancestor realm. With Lu Ming's combat strength, he could only be ranked in the middle and had to retreat for the time being. The two of them rushed towards the vast mountain with all their might. Not long after, they rushed into the mountain and continued to run towards the depths of the mountain. Behind them, there were people continuously rushing into the mountain. Thousands of people were scattered in the vast mountains. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing ran for more than 200 miles before they stopped. For the next period of time, this place will become a hell of slaughter, Lu Ming said softly. One could imagine how crazy it was to turn someone's life into blood-refining crystals. The youths who entered would definitely hunt each other down. Although the young martial ancestor realm experts did not have any use for blood-refining crystals, they could still sell them for a shocking price. Lu Ming, we have to break through to the martial ancestor realm as soon as possible. Otherwise, we'll be in a very passive position, Xian Yanqing said. In this unfamiliar environment, they were facing strong enemies everywhere. The relationship between the two of them had unknowingly become closer. That's right, but it's not easy to make a breakthrough. Let's look around and see if there are any treasures, Lu Ming said. The two of them randomly chose a direction and ran forward. Whoosh! Whoosh! Suddenly, a sharp ear-piercing sound was heard, and several sword chi flew toward the two of them. There was a sneak attack. Their expressions changed and they dodged the attack. Then with a flash, 8 figures appeared and surrounded the two. You two are unlucky. Now turn into our blood-refining crystals. The leader of the 8 people, a young man, coldly said. This person was the strongest among the 8. The aura on his body was extremely thick, and he was an expert in the first realm of the martial ancestor realm. The other 7 were all 9th grade great martial masters. 6th senior brother, this woman is extremely beautiful. It's such a pity to kill her just like this. Why don't you let me play with her first before killing her? One of them was a short and chubby young man. He looked at Xian Yanqing with a perverted look in his eyes. His crotch was bulging. Fatso Lu, put away your perverted thoughts. What kind of place is this? Let's end this quickly, or else we won't even know how we died. The 6th brother scolded. The chunky young man laughed a few times, but when he looked at Xian Yanqing, the fire in his eyes grew stronger. He didn't notice the killing intent in Xian Yanqing's eyes. This fellow is really pitiful. Lu Ming shook his head. In his heart, he was already mourning for this fatty. He even dared to molest the little devil, Xian Yanqing. He was really looking for death. You're dead. As expected, Xian Yanqing's voice was cold. What? I'm dead? You want to kill me? Haha, what a joke. Didn't you see that my 6th senior brother is a martial grandmaster powerhouse? You are just a great martial master. You want to kill me in front of a martial grandmaster? What a joke. My precious. The chunky young man started to be arrogant, but before he could finish his words, he let out a shrill scream. Oh! Chapter 276. Chapter 276. Chapter 276 Tower. 549690339. The chunky young man screamed at the top of his lungs. He was screaming in a terrible way, and the fat on his body was shaking. There was a pool of blood at his crotch and his thing was gone. Lu Ming's pants tightened involuntarily. He had seen it clearly just now. With a snap of Xian Yanqing's fingers, a black lotus petal flew out and cut off the chunky young man's thing. When the other young men saw this, they also felt a chill down their spines. 6th senior brother, avenge me. The chunky young man continued to scream. Bitch, you're looking for death. Attack and kill them. The 6th senior brother roared and charged at Lu Ming. He wanted to get rid of Lu Ming first, then torture Xian Yanqing. Human Dao Palm. Lu Ming could not be bothered to waste his breath. He immediately used his strongest move. A huge palm print suddenly formed above the 6th brother's head and slammed down. The power was so strong that it was shocking. The 6th senior brother was shocked. He had never expected Lu Ming's attack to be so terrifying. He immediately burst out with all his strength to resist this move. Bang! With a loud bang, 6th brother was directly blown into the soil, and a big pit was blown out on the ground. When the smoke and dust disappeared, 6th brother was lying in the pit like a pool of mud, dying. The other 6 young men were stunned. Then they trembled and broke out in cold sweat. One move to deal with the 6th senior brother, who was a martial grandmaster. Was this still a martial artist in the grandmaster realm? The chunky youth even forgot to scream as he widened his eyes in fear. "Run!" one of the young men shouted, and the other 6 turned around and ran. "Wait for me!" the short and fat youth screamed, but his crotch was in so much pain that he couldn't run fast. He was so anxious that tears were about to flow out. "You want to run? Do you think you can run?" Xian Yanqing's voice was as cold as the winter snow. She waved her hands and black lotus petals flew out. The short and fat young man was the first to be killed. He didn't even have the chance to scream. Whoosh! Xiao! Xiao! The petals tore through the air, sharper than the sharpest blade. Screams were heard again and again. In a few breaths, all 6 young men were killed. At this time, the 6th brother was no longer breathing. Inscriptions appeared in the sky and extracted the blood from the corpses, forming blood-refining crystals. However, not everyone could condense a blood-refining crystal. Lu Ming realized that only martial artists with 5th-level blood vessels could condense a blood-refining crystal. Those with blood vessels below level 5 would have their blood qi dispersed before they could even form a blood-refining crystal. One of the young men had a 6th-level blood meridian and had actually condensed 2 blood-refining crystals. As for the 6th senior brother, he was a martial arts grandmaster and had awakened his 2nd bloodline. His 2nd bloodline was an ordinary level 9 bloodline, and he had condensed 16 blood-refining crystals at once. The number of blood-refining crystals condensed would double with each level of bloodline, and it had nothing to do with cultivation. There were 8 of them, so they managed to form a total of 22 blood-refining crystals. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing split the crystals equally, so they each got 11. Then the 2 of them left the place. Along the way, the 2 of them were ambushed a few more times. However, the strongest of the enemies was only in the first stage of the martial ancestor realm. They were all killed by the 2 of them, and each of them obtained a dozen blood-refining crystals. Although Lu Ming had 4,000 blood refinement pills, the more the better. Secondly, the more blood he accumulated, the higher the possibility of awakening a higher-level blood meridian. According to the 9 Suns Supreme Master, his first bloodline was awakened because of the 9 dragons' blood essence. However, his 2nd bloodline had nothing to do with the 9 dragons' blood essence. It was his own bloodline that had awakened. Lu Ming's blood meridian was not too advanced. Lu Yao had deprived him of his blood meridian and awakened a 5th-level blood meridian. From this, it could be seen that Lu Ming's first blood meridian was not higher than the 5th level. Therefore, his 2nd bloodline might not be too powerful, so he would need a large number of blood refinement pills and blood refinement crystals. The 2nd bloodline was very special. Some people might not have even used a blood refining pill or other treasures to supplement their bloodline potential, but they could still awaken an extremely high-level bloodline. However, it was not absolute. The chances of awakening a high-level bloodline were much higher after taking blood refining pills or blood refining crystals. Half an hour later, the 2 of them appeared in front of a huge building that was 7 stories high. This building was shaped like a tower. In front of the tower stood more than 100 young men. They were facing each other and staring at the tower. The tower's door was tightly shut. I've tried it just now. This door is extremely heavy and can't be opened by one or several people. I suggest that we work together to open the door. As for the treasures inside, let's let strength speak for itself. A young man in a brocade robe called out. Who knows if you'll attack us when we open the door? I'm not at ease. A skinny monkey-like young man shouted. If you're still worried, you can get lost. The youth in the brocade robe was very domineering. You fuck. The skinny monkey-like young man's face turned ugly, but he didn't dare to refute. He wants the treasure but doesn't have the guts. He's destined to be a good-for-nothing with no future in his life. The youth in the brocade robe mocked. He then glanced at the others and said, How is it? Do you want to work together to open the tower's gate? All right. I agree to help you. I also agree. Oh, almost everyone agreed. If he wanted to obtain the treasures inside, he had to open the door first. Attack together. The young man in the brocade robe shouted and threw out a powerful punch. Attack! The others also made their moves. Suddenly, all kinds of sword chi, blade light, fist force, palm wind, and so on were blasted toward the tower's door. Boom! 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 The building rumbled and light flickered. Finally, with a loud bang, the door was blasted open. Buzz! Whoa! Immediately, dozens of people rushed towards the gate, afraid that the treasure would be taken away if they were a step slower. Ah! Ah! However, the next moment, a series of shrill screams rang out. There were dozens of people who had rushed into the gate, and at least 20 of them let out blood-curdling screams as their heads suddenly exploded. As for the other dozen or so people, they were all martial ancestor realm powerhouses. They were attacking their surroundings wildly, as if they were fighting something. Runes appeared in the sky, and the young men who were killed were all refined into blood-refining crystals. What's there? Someone shouted in fear outside the door. I don't know. I can't see clearly. It's too strange. I'd better not go in. Some people wanted to retreat. At that moment, the martial arts grandmaster powerhouses had already rushed in and disappeared. A type of blood-colored worm. Lu Ming's eyes were bright as he stared at the door. With his eyesight, he could still see the object of attack. It was a blood-red bug that was as thin as a hair and as large as a cicada. Its speed was so fast that it was invisible to the naked eye. Only a martial grandmaster would be able to discover it. This kind of blood cicada would cause one's head to explode as soon as it entered. Let's go in. The other martial arts grandmasters rushed in one after another. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing moved and followed the crowd. Buzz! As soon as he rushed in, a blood cicada shot at him. He swept out his spear and sent the blood cicada flying. Then he rushed in. Xian Yanqing was the same. He followed Lu Ming. Oh! Chapter 277. Chapter 277. Yuan Ancient Spiritual Pill. 549690339. After Lu Ming rushed in, he picked up a few blood-refining crystals. Nest, how come those two great martial masters are so powerful? Outside, the Grandmaster Realm warriors were dumbfounded. After Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing rushed in, they saw a wide staircase that led to the second floor. Without any hesitation, the two of them rushed up and found that there were empty chilaviers on the second floor. On the side of the chilaviers, there were a few dried corpses. It was obvious that they had been killed and their blood had been extracted to form blood-refining crystals. It was obvious that everything here had been looted by the people who had rushed in first. Hurry up and go. Get lost. Die. You're the one who's going to die. The scene was in chaos. Everyone wanted to rush up, so it was naturally chaotic. 7 or 8 people were fighting. Who? A young man wielding a battle axe swung his axe at Lu Ming. His cultivation of the first level of the martial ancestor realm was revealed. You really think I'm a pushover? Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. He struck out a palm, and a huge palm print blasted toward the young man. Bang! The young man's bones were broken, and he was thrown back, but he didn't die, because he also cultivated an earth-level martial skill, which blocked part of the power of the palm of humanity. Even so, the other young powerhouses were shocked and looked at Lu Ming with fear. Where did such a powerful great martial master come from? I've seen all the strongest great martial masters in the Bloodjiao Empire, but there's no such person. Someone said with a grave expression. The others looked at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing in fear. Lu Ming could not be bothered with them. He rushed to the third level with Xian Yanqing. The third floor also had a few chilaviers, and the items on the chilaviers had also been ransacked. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing did not stop at all. They continued to rush up. The fourth level, the fifth level, the sixth level. All the way to the sixth floor. The two of them were always a step slower than the others and were completely robbed. When he reached the sixth level, he heard the sound of intense fighting. The sound came from the seventh level. The two of them charged forward without hesitation. Boom! Boom! On the seventh floor, there were 6 youths engaged in an intense battle. One of them was the youth in the brocade robe. This person's cultivation was at the second level of the martial ancestor realm, and he was definitely a genius. As for the other 5, they were all at the peak of the one Dan martial ancestor realm. The battle was extremely intense. The 6 of them were in a chaotic mess, but it was obvious that the youth in the brocade robe had the advantage. On the 7th floor, there were only 2 shilavirs with some jade bottles on them. On the shelf it was written, Yuan Ancient Panaceas, medium lever for elixir. Lu Ming's heart trembled. Then his eyes emitted a shocking glow. The Yuan Ancient Spiritual Pill was a medium lever 4 pill. It could increase one's cultivation very quickly. For a martial arts grandmaster it was very useful. In the outside world, the price of the Yuan Ancient Panaceas was astonishingly high, and there was often a demand but no supply. I must get some. This way my cultivation will reach the peak of the 9th grade grandmaster realm in a short time. Then, I'll consume the blood refinement pills and blood refinement crystals to refine my bloodline and break through to the martial ancestor realm. Lu Ming's mind was racing. In this place Lu Ming had no time to devour the blood essence of others. The blood essence of the warriors who died in battle had all been condensed into blood refining crystals. Without devouring the blood essence, Lu Ming's cultivation level could not be improved in a short time. The Yuan Ancient Spiritual Pill appeared at the right time. You guys want to fight with me? You're looking for death. The young man in the brocade robe shouted. His eyes were like lightning, and his body emitted a strong purple light. He struck out with his palm and it was a purple palm print. It was extremely powerful, and the other young men all retreated. Zisong, there are so many people here. How is it possible for you to take the Yuan Ancient Panaceas for yourself? Another young man called out. Oh really? Then I'll kill you first. Extreme purple golden dragon palm. Zisong let out a long roar. The purple light on his body was extremely dense. When it reached a certain level, the purple light actually turned into gold. He struck out a palm and a golden true dragon roared out. Bang! The young man was knocked away by the golden dragon. He coughed out a mouthful of blood and his aura was extremely weak. His eyes were filled with horror. Is it possible now? Zisong looked at the young man coldly, then looked at the others. The other 4 young men's expressions changed. Hurry up and get lost. If you don't, you'll end up like him. Zisong's aura was overbearing as he coldly looked at the others. Zisong, there are 4 of us. We might not be afraid of you even if we work together. A tall young man said unwillingly. As for Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing, he had completely ignored them. Boom! As soon as the tall youth finished speaking, Zisong struck out a palm and a golden dragon rushed out. With a scream, the young man was torn in half by the golden dragon. His blood essence and blood were condensed into 16 blood refining crystals, which were put away by Zisong. You still want to join forces? This is the end. Zisong sneered. The remaining 3 people were extremely shocked. Zisong was too powerful. They were no match for him when he used his ultimate move. They looked at each other and finally retreated from the 6th floor unwillingly. Aren't you two going to get lost? Zisong looked at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Get lost? Get lost and let me see. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Instantly Zisong's face darkened and he said, Kid, do you know the consequences of your words? Now even if you want to leave you can't. 2 mere great martial masters want to get their hands on the Yuan Ancient Panaceas? You're really delusional and don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Zisong looked down at Lu Ming from above and walked toward him. Brat, do you want to kill yourself or do you want me to do it? If I do it you won't die so easily. Also little girl, if you swear to be my concubine and serve me well for the rest of your life, I'll let you go. Zisong looked at Xian Yanqing with a burning gaze. Xian Yanqing's looks were indeed rare in the world. Any man who saw him would be moved. Do you think trash like you is worthy? Xian Yanqing sneered. Since you refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit, then I'll send you both on your way together. Zisong's body burst out with cold killing intent and he slapped his palm at Lu Ming. A purple palm print surged over. Lu Ming's eyes flickered and he also struck out with his palm. The human Dao palm was formed. Boom! The two palm prints collided with a loud boom. Lu Ming's figure swayed slightly, while Zisong took 3 steps back before he could stabilize himself. At this moment, his face revealed a look of disbelief. A mere 9th grade great martial master could actually push him back with one palm. How was this possible? Then, an extremely cold killing intent burst out. He roared, damn it, go to hell!" The purple light on Zisong's body was extremely dense. Then it turned golden. He struck out with his palm and a golden true dragon pounced out. The golden true dragon's body was fused with a powerful Shi. Zisong's Shi was also very strong and had reached the small success stage. Oh! Chapter 278. Chapter 278 50 Super Rookies of Bloodjiao. 549690339. Human Dao Palm. Lu Ming shouted and struck out with his palm again. Lu Ming had used all his strength and integrated the power of wind and fire into this palm. Boom! The palm of People Dao clashed with the golden dragon. A violent explosion was heard. Following that, the People Dao palm print shattered inch by inch. A terrifying force surged towards Lu Ming, and he could not help but retreat. Zisong's combat strength was indeed extremely powerful. Lu Ming realized that as his cultivation level increased, the opponents he faced would also become stronger. When he was facing these young martial arts grandmasters, his advantage in many aspects was no longer as obvious. Almost all of these young martial grandmaster powerhouses had cultivated earth-rank martial arts techniques and comprehended force. Moreover, they had all mastered it. Although Lu Ming had a slight advantage in martial arts techniques and force, it was not big. Also, how could a martial grandmaster's cultivation technique be a yellow-grade cultivation technique? It was usually a black-grade upper-level cultivation technique, and it was not surprising that some people even cultivated an earth-grade cultivation technique. The higher the level of the cultivation technique, the thicker and more condensed the true qi cultivated would be. It was impossible for Lu Ming's essential qi to be 5 times more than these people. Therefore, his advantage was further reduced. It was even more difficult to fight above one's level. That was why Lu Ming was forced to retreat by Zisong. However, he did not know that Zisong was even more shocked. He was a peerless genius, not an ordinary second-grade martial arts grandmaster. He found it unbelievable that his full-powered palm strike only forced Lu Ming back and did not kill him. Kill. This brat's talent is even higher than mine. He can't be allowed to live in this world. Zisong roared in his heart and charged at Lu Ming again. Chi. At this moment, Xian Yanqing also made his move. Black lotus flowers formed around her. The black petals danced and enveloped Zisong. At the same time, she waved her palms and a black palm print whistled out. Bitch, you're looking for death. Die! Zisong shouted as he directed a portion of his power at Xian Yanqing. Boom! Boom! Immediately, the 3 of them engaged in a great battle. Xian Yanqing's combat strength was also extremely shocking. He was not any weaker than Lu Ming. The 2 of them joined forces and were evenly matched with Zisong. Zisong's face was extremely gloomy. The more the battle, the more frightened he was. The 3 of them fought, and their energy shot out in all directions. However, inscriptions appeared on the walls of the 7th floor, which absorbed most of the force. Otherwise, those Yuan ancient panaceas would have been shattered. In the blink of an eye, more than 50 moves had been exchanged. On the 6th floor, the 3 first-level martial arts grandmaster youths stood there. As they heard the violent boom coming from the 7th floor, the 3 of them looked at each other. Who was Zisong fighting with? Could it be the 9th grade great martial master realm couple from before? But how is that possible? 2 9th grade great martial master realm cultivators were able to fight Zisong to such an extent? Then what were they? Trash. They were in disbelief. But other than the young man and woman, there was no one else on top. The 3 of them decided to wait on the 6th floor. Die! Zisong roared angrily. The golden light around his body was boiling and extremely dense. He roared in his heart and wanted to kill Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing, but he could not do it. After a while, the golden light on Zisong's body began to dissipate rapidly. Damn it, damn it. You two bastards, you bastard couple, just you wait. I, Zisong, swear I'm not a human if I don't kill you. Zisong bellowed in anger and waved his palm a few times, blocking Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's attacks. Then he ran towards the 6th floor and disappeared from the stairs in an instant. He had used up a lot of his essential qi to maintain the golden light. He could not hold on any longer and could only run. Otherwise, he would be killed by Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. On the 6th floor, the 3 young men were waiting. Suddenly, they saw Zisong rushing down from the 7th floor at top speed. He ran down in a hurry. The 3 young men were stunned. Could it be that Zisong has been defeated? The 3 young men looked at each other and gasped. Then, without any hesitation, they ran. On the 7th floor, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing scanned their surroundings. There were 2 Shilavirs in total, and each of them was filled with jade bottles, all of which were Yuan ancient panaceas. Let's split it half each. Lu Ming smiled and walked to one of the Shilavirs while Xian Yanqing walked to the other. Lu Ming took a glance and calculated that there were 49 jade bottles in total. Lu Ming picked up a jade bottle. As soon as he opened it, he could smell a strong medicinal fragrance. In the jade bottle there were 9 round milky white pills. Lu Ming was overjoyed. He waved his hand and kept all the jade bottles into the supreme shrine. On the other side, Xian Yanqing also put away the Yuan ancient panaceas with a smile on his face. With these Yuan ancient panaceas, I will be able to reach the martial arts grandmaster realm very soon. At that time, I will definitely trample you under my feet. Xian Yanqing looked at Lu Ming and said fiercely. Lu Ming was speechless. Why did this girl keep thinking about this? Immediately, Xian Yanqing led the way and walked down. Lu Ming smiled and followed closely behind. After going downstairs, there was no one on the lower floors. When the 2 of them left the pavilion, they found that the people outside had also left. No one knew how long they could stay in this secret realm, and no one was willing to waste time. Since this place was not suitable, they would definitely find another place. The 2 of them left the pavilion, randomly chose a direction, and ran at top speed. They wanted to find a secluded place to consume the Yuan ancient panaceas and improve their cultivation. Half an hour later, the 2 of them passed by a dilapidated palace. Hurry up and run. Zhao Hong, one of the 50 super rookies of the Blood Zhao Empire, is inside. A terrified shout came from the old palace. Immediately, more than 20 young men ran out of the dilapidated palace in horror. Die! Die! A cold shout full of killing intent came from the dilapidated palace, and then a terrifying saber light burst out. Ah! Ah! Miserable shrieks were heard continuously. More than 20 young men had been killed by this blade. Runes filled the air as blood-refining crystals were formed. A young man with disheveled hair and a long blade on his back stepped forward. With a wave of his hand, he collected all the blood-refining crystals and looked forward. A sharp killing intent filled the air. 1,000 meters away, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's expressions changed. Let's go! Lu Ming shouted and left the place with Xian Yanqing. This young man was too strong. He was not someone the 2 of them could fight against. The Blood Zhao's 50 super rookies were geniuses on the same level as the Scorching Sun's 6 heroes. Zhao Hong's eyes flickered as he watched Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing leave. He did not pursue them. Instead, he turned around and entered the dilapidated palace. 50 miles away, screams came from a valley. It's Duan Ling, one of the 9 heroes of the Dark Moon Empire. Don't kill me, he said. The next moment, a shocking sword qi burst out of the valley. More than a dozen young experts were killed by the sword and turned into blood-refining crystals. Regardless of whether it was the 1st or 2nd martial ancestor realm, none of them could escape the fate of death. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing, who saw this scene from afar, did not stop at all. They turned and left. A few hundred miles away from Lu Ming and the rest, Yang Liuji laughed out loud in the ruins. Around him, there were at least 50 corpses of young men lying there, their blood qi condensed into blood-refining crystals. In the secret realm there was killing at all times. Only the strong could survive and seize opportunities. Oh! Chapter 279. Chapter 279 Beginning to Improve. 549690339. An hour later, the two of them appeared in a secluded valley. This place was very remote and deserted. It was a good place to cultivate. Without saying anything, the two of them sat down cross-legged, took out the Yuan ancient panaceas, and began to cultivate. He took out a jade bottle and opened the cap. Immediately a medicinal fragrance filled the air. The Yuan ancient spiritual pill was a medium lever 4 medicinal pill. It was of great help to a martial arts grandmaster and was priceless. Lu Ming poured out one pill and swallowed it. In an instant, a powerful devouring force came from the 9 dragons' bloodline. The medicinal power of the Yuan ancient spirit pill was continuously devoured and refined. Before long, the medicinal effects of the pill were completely refined. Lu Ming felt that his cultivation level had increased by a level. The medicinal power of a Yuan ancient spiritual pill was at least dozens of times that of a class 9 lever 3 demonic pill. At this moment, Lu Ming opened his eyes and looked at Xian Yanqing. He gasped when he saw the huge black lotus floating above Xian Yanqing's head. This was obviously Xian Yanqing's bloodline. However, there were 9 blood-red chakra rings shining around the black lotus. It was a breathtaking sight. A 9th level bloodline. Xian Yanqing's bloodline had actually reached the 9th level. How terrifying. Xian Yanqing had not broken through to Grandmaster and awakened his second bloodline. In other words, her first bloodline had reached level 9. This little demoness bloodline is terrifyingly high. No wonder her combat strength is so strong. She's a true genius. Lu Ming sighed secretly. To be honest, this was the first time he had seen Xian Yanqing's bloodline. Her first bloodline has already reached ordinary level 9. I wonder what level her second bloodline will be? Lu Ming could not help but look forward to it. Lu Ming continued to refine the primordial spirit pill. The surging energy was constantly transformed into essential qi. Lu Ming's cultivation level was improving rapidly. Soon, the bottle of pills was refined and Lu Ming's cultivation was approaching the middle 9th grade Great Martial Master realm. Continue to refine the goo. Half a day later, Lu Ming had refined Tulavir bottles of pills in a row, and his cultivation had risen to the peak of the 9th grade Great Master realm. At the same time, Xian Yanqing's cultivation had also reached the peak of 9th grade Great Martial Master. After reaching the peak of the 9th grade Great Martial Master realm, one could start to take blood refinement pills and blood refinement crystals to condense a second bloodline and accumulate energy for the awakening of the second bloodline. This process was known as blood solidification, also known as half grandmaster. During the blood solidification process, his blood qi was exuberant and even stronger than a peak 9th grade Great Martial Master. A blood refining crystal appeared in Xian Yanqing's hand and she swallowed it. Immediately, her spine emitted a strong blood-red light. Lu Ming did not waste any time. He also took out a blood-refining crystal and swallowed it. As soon as the blood-refining crystal entered his mouth, it turned into blood qi energy, which was absorbed by his spine and began to condense under the first bloodline. A blood-red light began to appear in that place. As the blood qi poured in, it slowly became brighter. In a few breaths, the blood qi of a blood-refining crystal was completely absorbed. Lu Ming took out a few at once and swallowed them in one go. The blood-red light on his spine grew larger and brighter. Very soon, the dozens of blood-refining crystals that Lu Ming had obtained were all used up. Then he made a grabbing motion in the air, and a bunch of blood refinement pills appeared. He stuffed them into his mouth. After a while, he grabbed another handful. At this moment, he suddenly realized that there was someone in front of him, and he couldn't help but open his eyes. He saw a pair of bright eyes staring at him in surprise. It was Xian Yanqing. "What are you doing, Nest? I'm scared to death." Lu Ming shouted. Xian Yanqing blinked his big eyes and asked, "You have blood refinement pills? How many do you have left?" "I do have blood refinement pills. How many are none of your business," Lu Ming said. "Can you give me some?" Xian Yanqing stammered, as if he found it difficult to speak. "I won't give it to you. I'll give it to you so that you can break through and step on me in the future." Lu Ming firmly rejected the idea. Humph, do you think that I can't step on you if you don't give me the blood refinement pill? Xian Yanqing snorted and gritted his teeth, revealing a few white teeth. Then he turned around and walked to the side. However, in less than a minute, she came back and stared at Lu Ming with her big eyes. What do you want now? Lu Ming asked, feeling speechless. I'll buy it. I'll buy the blood refinement pill from you, okay? How many crystals do you want? You can also use treasures to exchange for it. Xian Yanqing said. Oh, using treasures to exchange? That's fine. How about this? I'll tell you a few treasures, and if you have them, I'll exchange them. Lu Ming said. All right, go ahead. Xian Yanqing said. Mysterious Young Spirit, 10 square bone banner. Lu Ming listed 5 types of treasures in a row. These 5 heavenly materials and earthly treasures were all required to cultivate the 5th stage of the true war dragon technique. Unfortunately, Su and Xian Yanqing both shook their heads, indicating that they didn't. If you don't have it, how can you exchange it? How about this? Give me some dragon essence or dragon essence, and I can exchange it with you. Lu Ming pursed his lips. I don't have dragon essence or dragon essence, but I do have a flood dragon bone bead. What do you think? Xian Yanqing asked hopefully. What? Flood dragon bone bead? You really have one? Why don't you take it out and have a look? Lu Ming said anxiously. Xian Yanqing's palm glowed, and the next moment, a fiery red bone bead the size of a baby's fist appeared in his palm. It's really a water dragon's bone bead. And it's a fire water dragon's bone bead. Lu Ming was overjoyed. Cultivating the true war dragon technique didn't necessarily require those materials. There were still some substitutes, but these substitutes were more precious. For example, the items on the true dragon's body were all priceless treasures. Having just one of them would allow the true war dragon technique to break through. Although flood dragons weren't true dragons, they had the bloodline of true dragons and were extremely rare mutants. They also had some functions. Lu Ming had only mentioned it casually. He did not expect Xian Yanqing to really have such a treasure. Let me see. Lu Ming took the water dragon bone bead and studied it carefully. The flood dragon that produced this bone bead has a very profound cultivation base. As long as I have this bone bead and another material, I can successfully break through to the 5th stage of the true war dragon technique. Lu Ming thought in his heart. How is it? I'll exchange it for 2,000 blood refinement pills from you. Xian Yanqing said. 2,000? You wish you're asking for too much. Lu Ming was shocked and shouted. This is a water dragon bone pearl. I spent a lot of money to get it. 2,000 blood refinement pills is not a lot. Xian Yanqing said. 500. Lu Ming said. What? Aren't you cutting too much? 1,500, no less. Xian Yanqing said through gritted teeth. 800, no more. Lu Ming's lips trembled. 1,200. 900. Oh, 1,000 blood refinement pills. I can't go any lower. If you go any lower, I won't trade anymore. Xian Yanqing said viciously. Good. Deal. Lu Ming agreed with a look of heartache. Oh. Chapter 280. Chapter 280. Chapter 280 Burial Ground. 549690339. He took out 1,000 blood refinement pills and exchanged them for the dragon bone bead with Xian Yanqing. Xian Yanqing happily ran to the side to refine it. Lu Ming observed the water dragon's bone pearl and was overjoyed. He kept it and continued to consume the blood refinement pills. 2 days later, the remaining blood refinement pills were all refined by Lu Ming. A blood-red glow shot up from Lu Ming's spine. However, Lu Ming was not in a hurry to break through to the martial arts grandmaster realm. He felt that it was not enough. He still needed to continue refining treasures such as blood refinement pills and blood refinement crystals. At this moment, Xian Yanqing was sitting cross-legged. The blood-red glow on his spine was even thicker than Lu Ming's, and there was a terrifying fluctuation. He did not refine as many blood refinement pills as Lu Ming, but his energy fluctuations were stronger than Lu Ming's. This was due to his talent. After a while, the blood light disappeared and a terrifying fluctuation was hidden. Xian Yanqing opened his eyes. Do you have any more blood refinement pills? Xian Yanqing asked the first question after finishing his cultivation. Lu Ming spread his hands. I don't have any more. I think it's too little. Then go and kill them. The others must have a lot of blood refining crystals. Xian Yanqing's eyes flashed with a cold light. Just what I wanted. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Then the two of them left the place, chose a direction and ran away. 2 hours later, the two of them stopped at a barren mountain. The two of them felt that the second bloodline that had not been awakened was throbbing, as if it was attracted by something. Over there. The two of them headed in that direction. 10 miles away, a boundless stone forest appeared. Stone pillars stood tall and upright. These stone pillars were carved into various shapes, such as tigers, lions, and wolvers. There were even carvings of humans, true dragons, and so on. Buzz! Buzz! Many figures appeared in the surroundings and quickly rushed toward the stone forest. Boom! Boom! In the stone forest there were constant rumbles. It was obvious that someone was fighting. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing looked at each other and rushed toward the stone forest. Die! At the side, a first-level martial arts grandmaster youth charged towards Lu Ming, and was pierced through the heart by Lu Ming's spear. The young man's eyes were wide open in disbelief even as he died. Lu Ming was now infinitely close to becoming a martial arts grandmaster. He could be considered half a step away from becoming a grandmaster. He was much stronger than before. Lu Ming could kill an ordinary first-level martial arts grandmaster in one move. As soon as the young man died, his blood, qi, and essence were all condensed into blood-refining crystals. There were 16 of them, and Lu Ming collected them. At the same time, essential qi gushed out and Lu Ming took the young man's storage ring. As they continued to move forward, many people wanted to attack Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing along the way, but they were all killed mercilessly by the two of them. The combination of my wind and fire force is extremely powerful, but it's only a combination and can't be completely fused. If the two forces can be completely fused, the power will be even more shocking. But how can I completely fuse the two types of sure? If it works, then it'll be my trump card. As Lu Ming fought, he was thinking. Soon, the two of them had covered a distance of 10 miles, and the attraction to the bloodline was even stronger. Not long after, a pit appeared in front of them. All kinds of patterns were engraved around the pit. The two of them walked into the pit and immediately felt their blood run cold. In the pit, there were piles of white bones of all kinds of creatures, human-shaped and demonic beasts. Between the bones, there were blood-red crystals that gave off a blood-red glow. Blood-refining crystals. They were all blood-refining crystals. The thing that attracted their bloodline was the blood-refining crystal. This wasn't left behind in the present, but in ancient times. This place is a burial ground, and it's also a place for ancient sacrificial offerings. Xian Yanqing seemed to be talking to himself as his voice trembled. Blood-refining crystals, they're blood-refining crystals. These are all mine. Many figures appeared in the surroundings, their eyes burning with fire as they looked down. Yours? You're looking for death. You're the one who's going to die. Whoosh! A few figures jumped into the pit and started fighting in the air. At this moment, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing had also jumped into the pit. Immediately, someone attacked him. Bang! Lu Ming cast a human path palm print and smashed the first-level martial arts grandmaster into a meat patty, which was then condensed into a blood-refining crystal in the air. Xian Yanqing was also extremely powerful. A black lotus flew out and beheaded a first-level martial ancestor realm expert. As soon as the two of them landed, their true energy gushed out and swept away the blood-refining crystals. In just a few breaths, Lu Ming had collected hundreds of blood-refining crystals. There were still many of them as far as the eye could see. Some of them were even buried in the bone banner. Keep. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing collected them to their heart's content. Detestable. When the others saw this, their eyes turned red. They all stopped and rushed down to fight for the blood-refining crystals. Wang! At this time, a blade light suddenly slashed down from above. Screams rang out as 5 or 6 young men were killed in one strike. Then, a young man with disheveled hair and a saber on his back appeared above the pit. "Zhao Hong, it's Zhao Hong. Hurry up and run." The remaining people were shocked and quickly flew into the sky, wanting to escape. However, the next moment a saber light flashed and those people were all cut in half in the air. "Die!" Zhao Hong glanced at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing in the pit and then slashed down. The blade light was pale and the killing intent was as cold as the winter snow, enveloping the two of them. "Human Dao Palm! Great demonic palm!" Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing shouted and joined forces to fight the enemy. In the face of such a strong enemy, there was no need to hesitate. They could only join forces. Boom! With a loud boom, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing retreated backward. Zhao Hong's gaze flickered and he was slightly surprised. "I didn't expect two great martial masters to be able to block my blade. It's rare in this world. But today you'll still die." Boom! A powerful aura burst out from Zhao Hong's body, and a saber light shot up into the sky like a waterfall. Slash! Then he slashed down. "Retreat!" Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing did not even think and immediately retreated. Bang! Zhao Hong's blade slashed at the thousands of bones in the pit. The bones instantly shattered and shot out in all directions. Blood-refining crystals flew into the sky and then fell back down. Roar! At this moment a change occurred. From the pit, under the thousands of white bones, a shocking roar suddenly came out. A terrifying, baleful aura surged out from under the white bones. Bang! Then the white bones in the pit exploded, and a living being rushed out. This living being had a human form and was 3 meters tall. It was covered in green hair, had long and sharp nails, and had fangs in its mouth. Blood corpse. This living being was exactly the same as the blood corpse that Lu Ming and the rest had encountered in the Blood Realm's demonic cave. The only difference was that this blood corpse's eyes were golden, and the aura it gave off was much stronger than the blood corpses he had encountered in the Blood Realm and Devil's Denver. A fiendish aura filled the air. Roar! As soon as the golden-eyed blood corpse appeared, it pounced towards Zhao Hong. Its claws were as sharp as blades as it tried to grab Zhao Hong. Oh, you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.